Since childhood, a pinky promise has bound him to his fiancée. At school, everyone clamors for the popular Inagazaka-san's attention, but she gracefully declines every offer, citing a mysterious prior engagement. She's the school's perfect idol, beautiful, brilliant, and completely out of reach. As the heir to a prestigious Kyoto family, her reputation is absolutely flawless. After class, however, she only has eyes for one person, Sorosawa-san. He greets her with a carefree smile, seemingly oblivious to her high status. When he asks to hang out, she coolly shuts him down with the classic homework excuse. She internally fumes over their complicated dynamic, even while respecting his earnest nature. Watching nearby, a mysterious girl smirks, mockingly praising her performance. He awkwardly admits their relationship is anything but good. A flashback reveals their destiny was sealed in childhood by their families. A young Inagazaka gracefully accepted her role as his future bride. Meanwhile, a young Sorosawa was just a terrified kid caught in the crossfire. It all started with a pact between their grandfathers, old college pals. For years, their interactions were limited to texts and a single annual meeting. He was completely floored to find his fiancée at his Tokyo high school. Now they make awkward small talk about adjusting to the big city. She coyly mentions she can't seem to shake her Kyoto accent, but her cunning smile reveals it's a perfectly crafted part of her act. He's completely baffled that her perfect lady act extends even to the teachers. She claims the accent slips out when she's not careful, but her sly smile says otherwise. She teases him for knowing so much about her dialect, asking if he studied just for her. Blushing, he admits he wanted to understand her better, which clearly delights her. Their cute moment is shattered when a random guy carelessly bumps right into her. She politely apologizes with a bow, her face completely hidden from view. But he sees the truth, a terrifying, murderous glare hidden behind her apology. The man flees for his life while she calmly assures a worried Sorosawa that she's fine. He contemplates the single most difficult and terrifying thing about his fiancée. Her words and her true feelings are two completely different, warring worlds. He remembers a time her genuine joy over a gift only made her more of an enigma. But it's that very complexity that fuels his determination to understand her. For years, he's been desperate to grasp her true feelings for him. As he waves goodbye to the other girl, he thinks his day is over. Suddenly, a familiar voice calls his name, stopping him in his tracks. It's Inagazaka, unexpectedly inviting him to go sightseeing in Tokyo tomorrow. His mind short-circuits, completely stunned by her direct offer. A single glorious thought explodes in his brain. It's a date. The next morning, he's still floating on a cloud of pure, unadulterated joy. But as they arrive, she playfully questions his choice of tourist spot, Akihabara. He stammers, realizing he's already shot down classic spots like the Sky Tree. But she smirks, revealing she has a very specific destination in mind. Her grand plan? A full-blown, heart-pounding maid cafe experience. Inagazaka dives right in, perfectly mimicking the Momo heart pose with pure glee. Sorosawa, on the other hand, is dying of secondhand embarrassment. He's completely shell-shocked to find himself in the heart of otaku paradise. His brain is screaming one thing and one thing only. This is so embarrassing. She even asks for a commemorative photo, dragging a mortified Sorosawa into the frame. The resulting picture is a chaotic, adorable mess of cat ears and forced smiles. He can't help but point out that a maid cafe is a pretty weird choice for a first date. She cheekily compares Tokyo's maids to Kyoto's elegant maiko, finding the experience unique. She then drops a bombshell. That was their first ever picture taken together. He can't believe their first official photo is a cringe-worthy maid cafe souvenir. He protests that it wasn't a real two-shot because the maid photobombed them. Leaning in close, she whispers a tantalizing offer. Let's take another one later, just us. That triumphant smirk confirms she knows exactly how to push his buttons. He's a blushing mess, realizing she's orchestrating his embarrassment for her own amusement. She then casually brings up her Kyoto accent again, as if she didn't just short-circuit his brain. With a genuinely happy expression, she admits that a date like this feels fresh and new. Her genuine happiness melts his embarrassment, leaving him with a warm smile. He mulls over her feelings, wondering if she actually likes him at all. But he clings to a single hope. At the very least, she doesn't seem to hate him. A smug vision of Inagazaka reminds him that probably isn't going to cut it. He realizes that taking her words at face value is a fool's game. With newfound determination, he calls out her name, ready to change their dynamic. He asks where she truly wants to go, determined to finally understand her heart. Her answer, surprisingly, leads them to the promised land of gachapon machines. The perfect lady vanishes, replaced by a gambler screaming in frustration at her terrible luck. After 40 consecutive fails, her obsession with a rare prize is reaching a fever pitch. He suggests just buying it online, only to learn that for her the thrill of the pull is everything. She stands defeated, clutching a mountain of failed gachapon pulls. Unfazed, she announces a strategic retreat to a different machine to reset her luck. Inspired by her madness, he decides to risk it all on a single pull. He holds up his last 500 yen coin, a silent prayer on his lips, but a terrifying vision of his empty wallet snaps him back to reality. He quickly chickens out, turning to suggest they call it a day. When he looks back, however, Inagazaka has completely vanished. He spots her down the street, but his relief is cut short by a worrying sight. A group of guys has cornered her, clearly trying to hit on the lone beauty. They're more confused by her armful of capsules than anything else, while Sorosawa freezes up. The guys try to make small talk, but Inagazaka shuts them down with a single withering glare. Sorosawa's brain finally reboots, reminding him that this unapproachable girl is his actual fiancée. He recalls a time someone else noticed a ring on her finger, a clear symbol of their bond. The guys gossip about her prestigious background, quickly deciding she's way out of their league. But a painful memory surfaces. For a long time, he was the only one wearing his ring. He remembers her genuine, happy smiles from their much simpler childhood. A flashback hits him of a time when holding her hand felt completely natural. For years, he's pretended not to notice the growing distance between them. The guys, completely defeated by her icy aura, decide to cut their losses and leave. With a perfectly polite smile, she thanks them, her voice dripping with hidden meaning. But one of the guys suddenly lunges for Inagazaka, and Sorosawa's world grinds to a halt. The thug reaches out, his intentions clearly anything but friendly. Terrified but resolute, Sorosawa throws himself in front of her, pleading for the guy to stop. In that instant, his fear is completely eclipsed by a fierce, protective instinct. His heroic stand, however, ends with him being effortlessly tossed to the ground like a rag doll. Dazed and defeated, he can only call out her name as the world spins around him. The thugs spot his ring, mocking him as the only one pathetic enough to wear it. Humiliation burns as he clenches his fist, the ring a symbol of his one-sided devotion. A surge of defiance courses through him, ready to defend their promise against all odds. But his grand comeback is cut short as he stumbles right into Inagazaka's arms. She holds him with ease, mockingly asking if he's been eating properly. The thugs can only stare, completely baffled by this sudden turn of events. A quick reveal shows her 10 years of martial arts training as she effortlessly handles the situation. Sorosawa sits on the ground, his heroic moment completely and utterly stolen. He breaks into a nervous laugh, realizing just how capable his fiancée truly is. He admits his help was useless, and she bluntly calls his attempt embarrassing. She then kneels down, offering a hand and asking if he's hurt. His pride flares up, his mind screaming that he doesn't need her pity. He flinches away from her hand, insisting he's perfectly fine on his own. Ignoring his protest, she firmly grabs his hand, pulling him up with surprising strength. Overwhelmed by emotion, he kneels and confesses his true feelings with a single phrase. "I love you." Her perfect composure shatters, leaving her completely stunned and at a loss for words. He looks up, blushing but resolute, knowing this is his one and only chance to be honest. He feels that if he doesn't say everything now, he'll lose his courage forever. He lays his heart bare, admitting he loves everything from her accent to her hidden passions. With a sheepish grin, he even apologizes for feeling so strongly about her. He lists all his own flaws, admitting he has nothing special to offer her in return. But with a determined clench of his fist, he reveals he's not finished just yet. He opens his hand to reveal the one thing she wanted most, the rare gachapon prize. Inagazaka stares in disbelief, her gachapon-obsessed heart completely short-circuiting. He pours his heart out, promising to make her the happiest person in the world. With a passionate shout, he declares that on this one point he'll never lose to anyone. He admits he has little to offer now, but vows to work hard until he's worthy of her. Her response is a quiet, blushing thank you in her signature Kyoto dialect. Sorosawa processes her simple reply, his hopeful expression slowly fading. His eyes then widen in dawning horror as he misinterprets her gratitude. His brain short-circuits, arriving at one devastating conclusion. He's been rejected. As she stiffly walks away, he's convinced her thank you was just a polite brush-off. He stares blankly at the city, trying to accept his apparent romantic failure. But later that night, a sudden realization hits him like a bolt of lightning. He cringes at his own pathetic confession, convinced she could never like him now. But a small, hopeful smile creeps onto his face as he reconsiders the situation. He suddenly remembers her words from earlier. "I'm glad I came to Tokyo." Meanwhile, Inagazaka walks away, already planning their next date with a secret smile. He decides to hold on to one simple truth. At the very least, she doesn't hate him. Back in her room, Inagazaka is lost in thought, her cool demeanor completely gone. She stares at the gachapon prize, worried she completely misunderstood his intentions. Her mind races with anxiety, her face beaded with sweat over the romantic confusion. She collapses onto her bed, kicking her feet in frustration over his mixed signals. But one thought cuts through the chaos. At least he didn't call her heavy. She freaks out, realizing their mutual feelings might be lost in translation. Miles apart, both are trapped in a spiral of romantic overthinking. A new character recalls his own childhood fiancée, setting up a parallel story. He remembers being brutally rejected by a girl, a painful memory that still stings. The mysterious girl, Sarada, cheerfully asks Sorisawa to study, mentioning she was just rejected. Sorisawa is completely caught off guard by her sudden invitation at the school lockers. He glances back at Inagazaka, whose icy stare makes him question everything he thought he knew. The air crackles with confusion as neither of them has any idea what the other is thinking. A light bulb goes off in Sorisawa's head as he suspects a massive misunderstanding. Inagazaka corners him with a devilish grin, demanding to know what her "thank you" really meant to him. She challenges him to figure it out himself, leaving him to decipher her true feelings. A sudden spark of understanding flashes across his face as he begins to connect the dots. But as she turns away, a deep blush betrays her own overwhelming embarrassment. He accepts her challenge, determined to finally solve the puzzle of her heart. Back home, he immediately collapses onto his couch, convinced he's completely angered her. He decides to stop overthinking and just ask her directly to clear the air for good. But his mind keeps circling back to one fact. She invited him out, so she can't totally hate him. He suddenly recalls his own passionate confession, realizing the answer might lie in his own words. The memory of his heartfelt speech hits him, forcing him to reevaluate her entire reaction. Elsewhere, the mysterious Sarada walks away, dismissing their entire romantic drama as an annoyance. It dawns on him that they're both trapped in the exact same spiral of overthinking. He flops onto his couch, completely drained by the emotional roller coaster. Her challenge echoes in his mind. Become a man worthy of her, and then she'll hear him out. Everything clicks into place, and he finally understands her true challenge. With a new strategy, he cheerfully invites Sarada to a study session, hoping to gain some insight. She casually asks if he has a preferred location for their study date. Her composure falters at the restaurant as she timidly asks if it's okay to call the waiter. He sweat drops but cheerfully encourages her, surprised by her hesitation. She eyes the button suspiciously, asking if this is his first time in a family restaurant. With a slight blush, she admits she's not used to eating out, revealing a surprisingly sheltered side. She coolly admits she has no friends, revealing this is all brand new territory for her. Their awkward moment is cut short by a waiter arriving to take their order. Sorisawa nervously orders just 2 drinks from the drink bar, trying to play it cool. She leans in close, teasingly asking if he can really order with a smile on his face. He sends her to the drink bar first, offering to watch their things like a gentleman. At the drink station, she's completely captivated by a simple bag of roasted tea. She begins to prepare her drink, but something about the process seems to confuse her. Her focus intensifies as she judges the water temperature with the seriousness of a scientist. Sorisawa is stunned by her meticulous tea-making, a skill she claims is just common sense. In a surprising twist, she hands him the perfectly prepared tea, opting for sparkling water herself. She beams with pride, confident she's brewed the perfect cup of tea. He stammers out a thank you, completely flustered by her unexpected kindness. But one sip sends a jolt through his brain as he recognizes the incredibly famous flavor. A sudden memory of Inagazaka hits him. In Kyoto, being served tea is a polite signal to leave. He panics, wondering if she's already trying to get rid of him without saying a word. She casually mentions she has lessons later, but is free for now, completely debunking his theory. Breathing a sigh of relief, he tells himself to calm down and enjoy the moment. But another memory surfaces. A second cup of tea is the real, undeniable sign to go home. Trying to be considerate, he tells her not to hesitate if she actually wants to leave. She stares at him, utterly bewildered by his comment and his terrible read of the situation. She cuts through his confusion, announcing it's time to finally start their study session. They settle into a booth, but her smug smile suggests studying is the last thing on her mind. He questions why she's sitting right next to him, but she coolly dismisses his concern as no big deal. He complains about the cramped space, but she insists that a little closeness is a narrow price to pay.
She leans in even closer, completely invading his personal space with a mischievous grin.
He starts sweating bullets, completely flustered by their shoulders touching. She teases him for being so flustered, claiming there's nothing to be embarrassed about. His attention is suddenly caught by the book she's reading, which is entirely in English. He asks about the foreign book, and she explains it's for a book report assignment. A quick glance at his own work reveals they're both tackling the exact same English textbook. Sorisawa's brain short-circuits, realizing she's on a completely different intellectual level. She playfully calls him out for blushing, but he vehemently denies everything. With a smug smile, she reveals the book is the original novel for a movie she once recommended. He lights up, excitedly asking if she watched the film, to which she coolly replies, "Of course." She then unleashes her inner fangirl, having consumed the sequel, the drama, and even the author's documentary. He sheepishly admits he's only seen the movie, while she passionately recommends the entire franchise. A moment of contemplation hits him as he plots his next move to close the gap. He whips out his phone, and a curious Sarada leans in to see what he's up to. A determined grin spreads across his face as he taps his screen with purpose. He proudly presents his phone, showing her he's just bought the ebook, ready to dive in with her. He boldly suggests they watch the sequel together and discuss it afterward. He immediately panics, thinking his overeager invitation has completely creeped her out. But her genuine smile reveals she finds his forwardness surprisingly refreshing. She quietly admits this is the first time she's ever really talked with a friend. Moved by her confession, he impulsively grabs her hand, much to her surprise. She explains that her perfect reputation always kept everyone at a distance. A flashback shows classmates admiring her from afar, always too intimidated to approach. Her countless achievements in sports and academics only widened the gap between her and her peers. She felt completely isolated until his simple daily texts started to break through her walls. With a heartfelt blush, she confesses that he was the only one who ever treated her differently. Her heartfelt words leave him blushing and completely speechless. He recalls seeing her room once before, a surprisingly simple and impersonal space. The only sign of her achievements was a box overflowing with discarded trophies and awards. She was brilliant, diligent, and excelled at everything she tried. Her ability to surpass everyone else only served to isolate her further. A sudden realization dawns on him about what she might truly desire. He admits he's surprised she ever saw him in that light, but she cuts him off, declaring that his words make her incredibly happy. She laughs it off, saying she's talked so much her throat is dry, which sends him into a panic. His tea-related terror is cut short as their study session comes to an end. He awkwardly waves goodbye, making a hasty retreat after their intense study session. She watches him leave, her expression a mixture of confusion and disappointment. Her mind short-circuits as she mutters a single bewildered question: why? She panics, wondering why he left so abruptly when the atmosphere was just getting good. Her thoughts spiral into chaos as she wonders if she somehow messed everything up. Back home, he collapses in relief, feeling like he's finally gained some crucial insight. He reflects on the day, realizing he's discovered a whole new side to Inagizaka. A small smile forms as he feels the gap between them has finally started to shrink, but a glance at his textbook reminds him of the vast intellectual chasm between them. He knows he's still a long way from being the man she truly deserves. She blushes, realizing he was the only one who ever saw past her perfect facade. Meanwhile, Sorisawa rolls around in bed, fired up with newfound motivation. The next day, a new challenge arrives at the school gates. He yawns at his locker, admitting he pulled an all-nighter binge-watching the movie sequel. A sudden poke to his back breaks him out of his sleepy haze. His eyes snap open as he whirls around to face the stranger. A bubbly new girl cheerfully asks for directions to Miyuki-chan's classroom. He's completely flustered, but agrees to guide the mysterious transfer student. An awkward silence hangs between them as they both freeze in place. When he asks why she's looking for Inagizaka, she playfully snaps that it's none of his business. She impatiently tells him to get a move on, questioning if he's even capable of the simple task. He's completely taken aback by her incredibly cold and demanding attitude. Nervously, he peeks into the classroom, calling out for Miyuki-san, and instantly regretting his decision. Inagizaka turns with a polite smile, but her expression freezes when she spots Sorisawa standing there. Her gaze locks onto the two of them, a clear arrow pointing out their suspicious proximity. With a dangerously sweet smile, she asks what brings his cute little friend to her classroom. He stammers that Inagizaka already knows her, while the new girl looks ready to pass out from the pressure. The transfer student, Hitsujino Mary, suddenly screams Inagizaka's full name in a fit of pure shock. Inagizaka smugly welcomes Hitsujino Mary from Kyoto, confirming their shared past. Mary fangirls hard, gushing about her love for Kyoto and how much she studied it just for this moment. Inagizaka mockingly praises Mary's perfect Kansai accent with a chilling smile. Mary celebrates the compliment, while her inner voice screams that Inagizaka is actually furious. She then turns to Sorisawa, coyly asking if he remembers her from a previous encounter. Mary whips out the infamous maid cafe photo, proving she was their photobombing maid. Sorisawa stares in stunned silence, his brain struggling to process this revelation. The realization finally hits him with the force of a freight train. He points a trembling finger, finally recognizing the transfer student as the maid from their date. Mary grills him about the maid cafe date, and he realizes her harsh attitude is personal. Back in the present, Sorisawa freezes as Inagizaka's expression turns dangerously dark. He stammers out her name, realizing he's just walked into a romantic minefield. Inagizaka's smile is pure poison as she notes how incredibly close they seem to be. Sorisawa and Mary recoil in shared terror, recognizing the sheer fury in her eyes. Mary quickly explains her backstory, revealing she's half Canadian with a Japanese mother. She's been a massive Japanophile ever since moving to the country in middle school. With a dramatic point, she singles out Inagizaka as the one she's been searching for. To Mary, Inagizaka is the absolute pinnacle of a traditional Japanese lady. She latches onto a stone-faced Inagizaka, declaring her the answer to all her dreams. Getting uncomfortably close, Mary grabs her idol, ready to make a life-changing demand. She passionately begs Inagizaka to make her a splendid Kyoto woman just like her. The entire classroom is left completely speechless by her sudden bizarre request. Inagizaka's response to Mary's passionate plea is a single decisive word on the chalkboard: no. Later, Sorisawa slumps at his desk, completely exhausted by the day's romantic drama. He can't shake the feeling that an unbelievably chaotic person has just entered his life. He replays the day's events, confused by Mary's hostility and Inagizaka's mysterious anger. He vents his frustrations to his friend, Futakuchi, who listens with a cool, detached expression. Sorisawa panics, terrified that the distance he just closed with Inagizaka is about to widen all over again. But then he remembers her heartfelt words from their study session. Only you were ever different. The memory of her confession brings a blush to his face, a moment of pure happiness he clings to. He replays that precious moment in his mind, trying to understand what she truly meant. Suddenly, he leans in to stare intently at Futakuchi, a spark of realization in his eyes. He asks Futakuchi for advice, who coolly asks if he's in some kind of trouble. Futakuchi flashes a dazzling smile, casually brushing off his concerns with a simple, "That's good then." Sorisawa is completely starstruck, realizing this is the first time the kind, popular Futakuchi has ever spoken to him. He's practically floating, basking in the warmth of a simple, kind conversation after so much drama. But his good mood evaporates at lunchtime as he freezes in place, holding his food tray in stunned silence. His eyes lock onto an unbelievable sight. Inagizaka and Mary are chatting happily together like best friends. Mary gushes over Inagizaka's homemade bento, completely starstruck by her idol's domestic skills. With zero shame, Mary opens her mouth wide, begging for just a single taste of the perfect lunch. Inagizaka surprisingly obliges, feeding a delighted Mary a piece of her food. Sorisawa watches in horror as Inagizaka offers her a piece of fried chicken, a seemingly innocent gesture that feels incredibly ominous. Sorisawa's mind screams a single jealous word: unfair. He can't believe the stranger is already closer to his fiancée than he is. Mary continues her fangirl routine, practically begging Inagizaka to stop being so perfect. Their little moment is interrupted when Mary spots Sorisawa frozen in the lunch line. Inagizaka turns with a devilish smirk, offering him a bite of her homemade lunch. His brain short-circuits, realizing she's putting him on the spot yet again. But instead of backing down, he leans in and accepts her challenge without hesitation. Inagizaka's smug composure instantly shatters, completely stunned by his bold move. With a blush, he declares her cooking is absolutely incredible, melting her icy exterior. She can only stare back, her deadpan expression hiding a storm of conflicting emotions. Inagazaka internally seethes, completely unimpressed by his bold move. His public display of affection leaves both him and Mary completely shell-shocked. While Sorisawa panics about angering her, Mary is just thrilled to hear her authentic Kyoto dialect. He realizes too late that her offer was a total trap, and he walked right into it. Mary loudly declares that Sorisawa is completely unworthy of being her idol's fiancé. But her teasing tone suddenly shifts, turning into a serious interrogation. She questions why a top student like Inagazaka would ever choose such an average high school. Inagazaka pauses, glancing over at a clueless Sorisawa before giving her answer. A slow, chilling smile spreads across her face as she prepares to drop a bombshell. She coolly explains it was all part of her grandfather's grand, unchangeable plan. Sorisawa is stunned, realizing she chose this school just to be with him. Mary scolds him for being so ungrateful, as if it's someone else's problem. She then wonders if this whole engagement is just a one-sided crush on his part. An intense stare-down ensues as she silently judges his every move. She offers some bizarre, condescending advice, telling the young man to just do his best. With a dramatic wave, Mary makes a grand exit, leaving everyone confused. As she walks away, Sorisawa decides he wants absolutely nothing to do with this new chaos. But she suddenly freezes mid-stride, stopping everyone in their tracks. She whips around with a sudden jolt, a look of dawning realization on her face. Mary screams that she's forgotten something incredibly important, leaving Inagazaka completely baffled. Without warning, Mary grabs Inagazaka's hand, her intentions a complete mystery. She shoves her phone forward, demanding Inagazaka's contact info for an immediate sticker exchange. Inagazaka stammers, trying to process the whirlwind of insults, praise, and now a friend request. With a sincere smile, Mary confesses her true goal. She just wants to be friends. Inagazaka is left completely speechless, caught off guard by the simple, genuine plea. With a final, chaotic wave, Mary makes her exit, leaving a trail of confusion in her wake. Walking home, Inagazaka quietly ponders the one word she's never really had: friend. Sorisawa remembers seeing a flicker of loneliness in Inagazaka's eyes during Mary's confession. He recalls her sad admission that no one ever tried to get close, always admiring her from afar. It clicks for him that for someone so perfect, she's never had someone break through her walls before. Inagazaka clutches her phone, beaming with a joy she's never felt before. She just made her very first friend. Sorisawa watches with a bittersweet smile, finding her pure happiness over something so simple, almost heartbreaking. He imagines her fumbling with her phone, completely clueless about which sticker to send her new friend. Her face lights up as she gets an instant reply, a small victory in her new social life. A peek at her contact list reveals just how lonely her world has been until now. Mary walks beside her, proudly announcing to the world that her idol has finally found a friend. Sorisawa observes their heartwarming moment, but a nagging feeling of being left out begins to creep in. He's now the awkward third wheel, completely shut out of their newly formed bestie bubble. He notices her voice is a little higher, a clear sign of her genuine, unadulterated happiness. Trying to find an in, he offers them a snack, only for Mary to eagerly accept without missing a beat. Mary offers Sorisawa a bite of her snack, but he awkwardly declines, clearly feeling left out. She then turns to Inagazaka, insisting they're friends and should use nicknames. A blushing Inagazaka shyly tries out calling her Mary-chan for the first time. In return, she excitedly asks Mary to call her Miyuki-chan, sealing their new friendship. Mary practically explodes with joy, celebrating that she's finally on a first-name basis with her idol. With a smug grin, she points out to Sorisawa that she's now on the same level of intimacy as him. Her tone suddenly shifts as she warns him not to take his fiancée for granted, or he'll live to regret it. Inagazaka is completely baffled by this sudden, intense relationship advice. Mary passionately explains that a fiancé needs constant attention, or someone else will swoop in and steal them away. Sorisawa is utterly terrified by her bizarre test, wondering if he's just been dragged into a new kind of hell. Her intense stare has him sweating bullets, completely lost for words. He stammers, trying to find the right words to navigate this social minefield. He awkwardly compliments her hairstyle, but she just stares back, completely unreadable. Mary pops up, excitedly pointing out that her hairstyle is matching Inagazaka's. Inagazaka's expression darkens, clearly unimpressed by this new development. With a chilling smile, she mockingly praises his flattery, and he knows he's doomed either way. Mary cheerfully gives his compliment a score of 20, but he's not looking for a performance review. Mary gushes as Inagazaka gets flustered, her authentic Kyoto dialect slipping out in her excitement. Mary's warning echoes in his mind. Pay attention to your fiancé or someone else will. He wonders if his feelings aren't getting through, deciding to finally speak up. The next day, a smooth-talking new guy named Kishi greets them at the lockers. Sorisawa's group immediately recognizes the popular Kishi, who sits in front of Inagizaka. He casually chats with Inagizaka, handing her some papers and making Sorisawa instantly wary. Kishi waves them off with a cool smile, completely oblivious to the tension he's just created. But as Sorisawa turns to leave, Inagizaka suddenly grabs his arm with a vice-like grip. He and Mary cower in fear as Inagizaka emits a terrifyingly dark and possessive aura. He nervously asks if something's wrong, but she denies it, refusing to meet his gaze. Sorisawa is left completely baffled, trying to decipher this new level of emotional complexity. She finally admits that yes, something about today feels a little different than usual. In a panic, Sorisawa grabs her hands and bows, convinced he's somehow messed everything up again. She stares back, completely bewildered by his sudden frantic apology. With a weak voice, she quietly admits that she's running a slight fever. Mary immediately bursts into tears, wailing apologies for not noticing her idol's suffering. In the nurse's office, Mary continues her dramatic meltdown, blaming herself for Inagizaka's condition. Sorisawa tries to calm the hysterical Mary, insisting it's just a simple cold. He checks on Inagizaka, who coolly dismisses her 37.2-degree temperature as nothing serious. She calmly explains that her aunt is already on her way to pick her up. Sorisawa hangs his head in shame, apologizing for being too dense to notice she was sick. Their moment is shattered when a classmate barges in, announcing it's time for PE class. Mary gives a tearful farewell, promising to text her as if she's sending her off to war. Inagizaka tells him to go on without her, assuring him she'll be fine. But as he turns to leave, he suddenly stumbles forward, feigning a fall. She instinctively grabs his arm, completely caught off guard by his sudden move. With a surprising yank, he pulls her right off the bed with him. He collapses onto her, asking how she knew he was faking it. She struggles against him, demanding he stop clinging to her so tightly. He holds her hand, revealing that no one else ever notices when she's unwell. Not even her own family can see past her perfect stoic facade. A flashback reveals he's always been the only one to see her vulnerability. He asks why she always pretends to be fine, especially when she knows he's worried. She's caught off guard, her perfect composure finally cracking under his direct question. With a slight blush, she denies it, claiming she doesn't want to worry anyone. She explains that showing weakness would just be a burden on everyone around her. In her mind, admitting she's unwell feels like a selfish, manipulative cry for attention. She instantly regrets her honesty, wishing she could take the vulnerable words back. Blaming the fever, she scolds herself for revealing her uncute true feelings. He listens patiently as she apologizes for causing him unnecessary trouble. But he just smiles, telling her that it's completely okay to feel that way. He gently says that if she doesn't want to be a burden, pretending is a valid choice. He admits he probably shouldn't say it, but he's about to reveal his own thoughts on the matter. He tells her that if that's how she truly feels, then she doesn't have to change a thing. But he adds one very important condition to their new arrangement. He promises that in return, he'll be the one to always notice when she's not okay. He vows that next time he'll be even faster, leaving her completely stunned by his resolve. He panics, insisting that when things get really bad, she absolutely has to rely on him. His passionate outburst leaves her a blushing, puff-cheeked mess. A soft giggle escapes her lips, completely charmed by his earnest concern. With a contented smile, she snuggles into the covers and agrees to his terms. But she suddenly hides under the blankets, making him freak out all over again. As he's about to leave, a sudden idea stops him right in his tracks. He turns back with a mischievous grin, asking if he can perform a little get-well-soon spell. A feverish Inagizaka blinks in confusion but seems to give him the go-ahead. She watches with wide eyes as he leans in close, whispering a single earnest request. He bows his head over her bed, performing his mysterious, heartfelt ritual. The air crackles with tension as he gets impossibly close, their faces just inches apart. With a cheerful wave, he promises to text her later, leaving her in a state of shock. She sits bolt upright, her brain completely short-circuiting from his sudden departure. A jolt of realization hits her as she finally processes his bizarre, intimate gesture. She immediately buries her face in her hands, letting out a silent, flustered scream. His grand spell was just him leaning in and whispering like a playful fox. His heartfelt whisper was simple. Get well soon. But for a split second, her feverish brain imagined something far less innocent. Ironically, his little spell only made her fever spike even higher. The next day, he cheerfully checks on her, but she completely ignores him. Mary gives him a smug little headbutt as if to say, "You blew it." Inagizaka covers her face, screaming internally about his shameless behavior. He can only watch in shock as she sprints away from him at full speed. Sorisawa and Mary are left completely dumbfounded by her sudden escape. Mary turns to him with a deadpan stare, delivering a one-word verdict: scum. He's left holding a letter, utterly crushed and confused by her extreme reaction. He's being blatantly ignored, and the entire classroom can feel the chill. During home ec class, he whines that even getting rejected wasn't this painful. His friend Futakuchi notices his pathetic state while they're supposed to be cooking. Futakuchi asks what's wrong, pointing out that he's been acting strange for days. Sorisawa finally cracks, admitting the girl he likes won't even look at him anymore. Futakuchi listens intently, his expression shifting from neutral to concerned. With zero hesitation, Futakuchi declares that she must absolutely despise him now. Nearby, another girl wonders aloud how to apologize to someone she might have hurt. Inspired, Sorisawa decides he needs to apologize, even if he doesn't know for what. A light bulb suddenly goes off in Futakuchi's head as he connects the dots. The other girl decides a homemade gift is the perfect way to apologize. She pours all her regret and determination into baking the perfect apology cookies. Sorisawa and Futakuchi watch from a distance, completely baffled by her sudden culinary intensity. Mary pops up behind her, shocked to see her asking for advice about Mia-chan. With dramatic flair, Mary offers to handle the divorce mediation, completely misreading the room. She's baffled when the girl clarifies it's just a simple fight, not a full-blown breakup. Mary sagely diagnoses their problem as a classic case of young lovers being too stubborn to be honest. With a dramatic point, she reveals her ultimate solution to any romantic squabble: bribery. She passionately explains that favors and gifts are the key to winning anyone over, calling it the crime of bribery. Her grand finale is a classic historical drama move, hiding a massive bribe under a box of sweets. Sorisawa admits that for all her chaos, Mary's logic is strangely persuasive. With renewed purpose, Mary declares she's found the perfect apology gift to win Inagizaka over. Back in the home ec room, Sorisawa puts the final touches on his own grand apology plan. He proudly presents his finished masterpiece, a bag of homemade apology sweets. But his triumphant moment is cut short when he spots Inagizaka already leaving with Mary. Mary gushes over the matcha sweets she made, while Inagizaka suggests they drop the Kyoto dialect for a bit. Sorisawa finally catches up, but Inagizaka asks a question that stops him in his tracks. She calmly reveals a shocking truth: she actually doesn't like sweet things at all. Sorisawa's world shatters as he remembers the mountain of sugar he just poured into his gift. His grand romantic gesture has just backfired in the most spectacular way possible. Defeated, Sorisawa slumps over his desk while Futakuchi offers him the now useless apology sweets. Futakuchi politely declines, pointing to a mountain of other gifts and revealing just how popular he is. Desperate for a distraction, Sorisawa offers to help with his work, to which Futakuchi happily agrees. Futakuchi explains he's just organizing materials for an upcoming school trip. Sorisawa is shocked to learn that he and Inagizaka were supposed to handle this task together. Meanwhile, a smug Inagizaka relaxes, knowing her overachieving fiancé already finished everything for her. Futakuchi tries to give the cookies back, but Sorisawa insists he keep the heartfelt, albeit sugary, gift. He explains with a huge grin that he had to give them away because they were just too full of emotion. Futakuchi calmly considers the bag, weighing the feelings packed into the homemade sweets. With a cool smile, he questions if feelings really have anything to do with the actual taste. Sorisawa is left speechless, his friend's casual remark hitting way too close to home. A painful memory of being teased for his earnestness suddenly flashes through his mind. Defeated, he sits alone with his failed apology gift, wondering if his mom will take pity on him. He realizes with a jolt that he never even knew she disliked sweets, a fact she'd always hidden. It dawns on him that she's been forcing herself to be someone she's not, just for him. But his spiraling thoughts are cut short by a text from Inagizaka, asking to meet at the park. His mind immediately goes into overdrive, panicking over the reason for this sudden change of plans. She arrives looking slightly flustered, apologizing for making him wait. They sit in a painfully awkward silence, a huge gap separating them on the park bench. Sorisawa internally screams at the unbearable tension, while Inagizaka can't even look at him. They both try to break the silence at the exact same time. An awkward back and forth begins as they both insist the other should speak first. Sorisawa listens intently, bracing himself for the worst. Inagizaka finally apologizes, admitting she's been overthinking his get-well-soon spell. He realizes with dawning horror that his childish gesture probably just creeped her out. She suddenly shouts that she hated it, vowing he'll never touch her again. He jumps up, insisting he's the one who should apologize for his own weird behavior. She frantically tells him not to ask about her personal reasons, leaving him even more confused. A deep blush reveals her avoidance had nothing to do with anger and everything to do with embarrassment. She finally thanks him for his kindness when she was sick, admitting his concern made her incredibly happy. She holds out a small box, offering it as a thank you gift for his concern. But she places it down, vowing not to lay a single finger on him. He's left completely confused by her sudden shift in attitude. With a devilish smirk, she reveals that she actually wants to get a little closer. Sorisawa's brain completely short-circuits, leaving him a blushing, stammering mess. A soft giggle escapes her lips, clearly enjoying his flustered reaction. She then thanks him for the cookies, accepting his apology gift after all. He sheepishly admits he had no idea she disliked sweets, holding his own failed gift. But she drops a bombshell, revealing it's not her who dislikes sweets, it's him. Sorisawa is left completely stunned, realizing he doesn't even know his own tastes. She explains how she tweaked the recipe just for him, using matcha and salt to balance the flavor. With a brilliant smile, she proudly declares she poured all her feelings into making them. His friend's cynical words suddenly return. Do feelings even have anything to do with the taste? But one bite is all it takes for him to happily declare her cookies are absolutely delicious. Relieved, he offers her his own gift, creating a sweet, if slightly awkward, exchange. He opens his box to present his apology gift, but his expression suddenly freezes. Peeking inside, he discovers something unexpected hidden beneath his own sweets. He pulls out a handful of cookies shaped like old Japanese coins, completely baffled by the discovery. Inagizaka strikes a smug pose, revealing this is her own special kind of bribe. He stares at the cookie, realizing he's still no closer to solving the puzzle of her heart. The school trip kicks off with Inagizaka and Kishi standing side by side, looking like the ultimate power couple. A teacher explains the first year's suburban excursion to Mint Atago, warning everyone to watch their step. The entire class gushes over the pair, calling them a feast for the eyes and the school's most popular students. A rumor starts to spread that the handsome Kishi is actually Inagizaka's fiancé. Sorisawa's world comes to a screeching halt as he overhears the devastating gossip. The other students are completely sold on the story, calling the actor's son and the Kyoto lady a match made in drama heaven. But Mary isn't having it, grabbing a gossiping student and demanding they take back their words. She dramatically points to Sorisawa, loudly declaring that he is Mia-chan's real fiancé. The other students just pat her on the head, completely brushing off her passionate defense as a joke. Sorisawa realizes that in moments like this, he's the one who needs to shout the truth from the rooftops. His classmates just laugh it off, telling him he's free to dream, but they don't believe a word of it. The teacher sends them off on their hike, reminding everyone to be careful. But Sorisawa realizes with a jolt that the rumor is only getting worse, not better. Up ahead, Kishi and Inagizaka are already surrounded by friends, looking like the perfect couple. Sorisawa is forced to keep his distance, trailing behind the popular group like a total outcast. The other students can't stop gushing over how perfect Kishi and Inagizaka look together in the sunlight. Even Sorisawa has to admit that Kishi's effortless popularity is on a whole other level. He feels completely out of place, the daughter of a famous family, an actor's son, and then just him. Kishi glances back, casually dismissing all the attention as nothing special. With a cool smile, he remarks that for all their fawning, none of them actually know the real him. Sorisawa's confidence plummets, realizing he can't even imagine what it's like to be in their shoes. A classmate whispers to Kishi, wondering if Inagizaka is also tired of all the attention. But Inagizaka just smirks, coolly stating that she doesn't really care what others think. She then puts Sorisawa on the spot, saying his understanding is the only one that matters. Mary suddenly attacks Sorisawa from behind, screaming that he's a dirty scoundrel. Inagizaka's hand twitches, her fingers unconsciously tracing where an engagement ring should be. Kishi notices the gesture, pointing out that for all her fiddling, she never actually wears a ring. She shoots him a silent, deadly glare, clearly annoyed by his sharp observation. Kishi simply returns her glare with a calm, knowing smile, unfazed by her anger. He then casually asks for her full name, a question that seems to come out of nowhere. Inagizaka says she thought his name sounded familiar, a sly smile playing on her lips. She recalls a child actor with the exact same name from a popular drama 4 years ago. With a smug grin, she tells a flustered Kishi that she can finally see the resemblance. The entire class erupts in shock, realizing the popular Kishi is a former child star. He snaps that he quit long ago, angrily telling everyone not to dig up his past. But Inagizaka reveals she already did, finding his entire career history with a simple online search. A classmate gawks at his old modeling photos, wondering why he'd ever quit being so famous. Inagizaka's smile turns venomous as she mockingly apologizes for stepping on a landmine he left wide open. Another student tries to break the tension, cheerfully pointing out they're almost at the summit. The mood lightens as they agree the ropeway made the hike fly by, deciding to wait for the others. Mary lets out a gasp of pure shock at the breathtaking view. She excitedly points out a tiny Mount Fuji in the distance, much to Sorisawa's amazement. Inagizaka gives him a smug look, clearly plotting her next move. She suddenly grabs his arm, dragging him away to a more private spot. Sorisawa's brain short-circuits, completely baffled by her mysterious intentions. She asks if he remembers a certain promise they made a long time ago. He panics, frantically trying to recall which of their many promises she could possibly mean. With a sly smile, she leans in and suggests they take a picture together, just the two of them. She urges him to get closer, telling him not to be shy about it. As he sets up the shot, she fumbles with the phone, adorably clueless about the front-facing camera. She holds up the phone, announcing it's picture time with a smug grin. But a moment later, they're both frozen in chibi-fied confusion. The resulting photo is a blurry, distorted mess, a complete photographic disaster. Sorisawa completely loses it, doubling over in laughter at her terrible camera skills. He apologizes through his giggles, insisting they need a do-over immediately. Taking charge, he offers to handle the camera, talking about angles and stabilization like a pro. He asks if he can get a little closer, and a blushing Inagizaka quietly gives him permission. Sorisawa lights up with a brilliant smile, thanking her for the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. His pure, unadulterated joy leaves her completely flustered and unable to look at him. The moment triggers a sudden flashback, a voice from the past asking why she's even going to Tokyo. A voice from her past reminds her that her father is worried about her moving away. A younger Sorisawa suggests she stay in Kyoto, offering a perfectly logical, safe alternative. But she dismisses his concerns, clearly annoyed by his practical approach to her feelings. She tearfully admits she just wants to experience what normal couples do, something they've never had. The camera shutter snaps, pulling her out of the painful memory and back to the present. Sorisawa has taken control, capturing a perfect shot while she's still processing her thoughts. She stares at the screen, a single sound of surprise escaping her lips as she sees the result. The photo is perfect. Him with a radiant smile, and her with a cool, confident smirk. He eagerly asks for her opinion, completely oblivious to the emotional storm he just interrupted. She quietly admires the clear image, a stark contrast to the blurry mess she created just moments before. He asks if she wants another try, but she flatly refuses without looking at him. She quickly turns away, muttering that she can't let him see her face like that. A massive blush reveals she's not angry, just completely mortified by her own happy expression. She sprints away in embarrassment, leaving Sorisawa to awkwardly point out the teacher as a distraction. Kishi watches the scene unfold, asking what just happened, while Sorisawa fears he's messed up again. Kishi coolly observes that Sorisawa is being avoided by the girl he likes and asks if he's in trouble. Getting straight to the point, Kishi asks him what exactly he likes about Inagizaka. Sorisawa stammers that it's hard to choose just one thing, so Kishi asks for the moment it all started. With a knowing smile, Kishi insists there must have been a specific event that sparked his feelings. The question hangs in the air as Sorisawa tries to pinpoint the exact trigger for his love. Sorisawa admits with a nostalgic smile that for him, it was love at first sight. He recalls how his heart has pounded for her ever since they were little kids. But his confidence fades as Kishi realizes Sorisawa's feelings are just as superficial as everyone else's. Kishi admits he thought Sorisawa was different, a genuinely good and straightforward guy. His expression turns serious as he prepares to give some unsolicited, brutal advice. He tells Sorisawa that for both their sakes, their engagement needs to end. Kishi bluntly suggests he should break things off with Inagizaka as soon as possible. He explains it's painful to watch someone in a similar one-sided situation as his own. Kishi admits he doesn't know the full story behind their arranged marriage, but he points out that if only Sorisawa wears a ring, their relationship is already doomed. Sorisawa is left speechless, unable to defend his feelings. Kishi warns him that if he continues, they'll only end up hurting each other. His voice drops as he reveals the painful reason behind his harsh advice. A flashback reveals Kishi's own bitter experience with a superficial relationship. He recalls being told he was only valued for his fame as an actor and model. The painful memory clearly still stings, leaving him with a pained expression. He walks away, telling Sorisawa to just keep his warning in the back of his mind. Sorisawa is completely overwhelmed, unable to find the words to argue back. He remembers Kishi's earlier comment about how no one truly knows him beyond his famous face. Sorisawa is left questioning everything, wondering if his love at first sight was ever enough. He reflects on Kishi's words, admitting he's never truly considered why he fell for her. The teacher's warning to be careful on the way down snaps him back to the present. Inagizaka breaks the silence, questioning the incredibly gloomy atmosphere that has fallen over the group. Mary panics, shouting that their school trip isn't over until they're safely home. Sorisawa glances over at Kishi, the tension from their conversation still hanging in the air. A caption reveals Kishi's secret. Despite his popularity, he's a lonely guy with no real friends. Mary completely misreads the mood, thinking they're just scared of the hike down the mountain. But a sudden realization dawns on her as she notices a tiny detail. She whips around to face Kishi, suddenly asking what happened to his earring. Kishi is completely stunned, caught off guard by her incredibly sharp observation. Mary boasts about her eagle eyes, volunteering to find the lost earring herself. Kishi tries to brush it off with a strained smile, insisting it's no big deal. Mary can't believe he'd lose it in a place like this, while Sorisawa agrees it's a shame. But a bead of sweat rolls down Sorisawa's face as a thought begins to form. Kishi looks down, a hint of sadness in his eyes over the missing accessory. Sorisawa's eyes snap wide open as he finally puts two and two together. He suddenly grabs Kishi, shouting a quick apology before taking off. Mary and Kishi are left in the dust, completely stunned by his abrupt departure. He sprints back up the mountain, yelling a flimsy excuse about a walking stick. A quick flashback confirms Kishi definitely had his earring at the summit. He realizes the single mountain path gives him a fighting chance to find the earring. Meanwhile, Inagizaka grumbles that his search is completely pointless. She insists there's no way he'll ever find something so small on a huge mountain. Kishi admits he was distracted by the view, then asks what she was looking at. But Inagizaka suddenly changes her tune, vowing to help Sorisawa search until it's found. She explains it's because she can't ignore the pained expression he made. Elsewhere, Mary complains that Sorisawa has completely disappeared on them. She's shocked to find he's already made it all the way back to the summit. As Mary makes a bizarre comment about a tree branch, Inagizaka's attention is caught by something else. Her eyes widen as she spots a glint of metal hidden in the grass. Sorisawa pushes himself to the absolute limit, sweat pouring down his determined face. He dives headfirst into the treacherous undergrowth, refusing to give up the search. A sudden unified scream of pure terror rips through the air as the others watch in horror. The trio frantically pulls him back from the cliff's edge, saving him from a nasty fall. Covered in dirt, Sorisawa triumphantly presents the recovered earring with a brilliant smile. Kishi deadpans a thank you for the rescue, looking completely exhausted by the drama. Sorisawa explains he spotted the earring dangling just out of reach and simply had to try. A small, genuine smile finally breaks through Kishi's cool and distant facade. He quietly admits that he's actually glad the earring was found after all. But his gratitude quickly turns to confusion, asking why Sorisawa would risk so much for him. Sorisawa scolds him, shouting that his reckless dive was just plain dangerous. Kishi internally questions why he'd go to such lengths, especially after he said to forget it. Sorisawa admits he knows he's being nosy, but there's a reason for his actions. He looks down, trying to find the right words to explain his sudden impulse. He explains that for the first time, he felt like he saw Kishi's true feelings. With a genuine smile, he says he knew the earring must be something truly precious. Kishi is completely thrown by this earnest answer, flustered by his sincerity. He deflects, asking what Sorisawa was even looking at to notice such a thing. Sorisawa falls silent, the question forcing him into a moment of deep self-reflection. Kishi realizes with a jolt that he was the one who had completely misjudged the situation. Kishi offers a quiet apology, leaving Sorisawa completely taken aback by the sudden sincerity. Sorisawa just smiles, telling his new rival to stop being so dangerously reckless. A flustered Kishi tries to get their attention, clearly wanting to say something more. But Inagizaka cuts him off with a deadpan expression, ushering the two boys ahead of her. The rivals suddenly find themselves awkwardly seated together in the cable car. An unbearable silence fills the small space as they ride down the mountain. Surasawa finally breaks the tension, asking about the earring that caused all this trouble. Kishi nervously clasps his hands, hesitant to reveal the story behind the accessory. He quietly mumbles that it was a gift from his little sister, much to Surasawa's shock. Surasawa's smile widens, telling a flustered Kishi he's even happier he found the precious gift. Kishi correctly guesses that Surasawa fell for Inagizaka at first sight. He smirks, dismissing it as a simple crush on a beautiful girl. Surasawa admits that was the start, but insists there's so much more to it. Kishi's expression softens as he says Surasawa's words just triggered a memory. Surasawa tries to explain, insisting he's not just making excuses for his feelings. He admits Kishi's challenge forced him to truly reconsider why he fell in love. Surasawa gets lost in thought, searching for the true origin of his feelings. A flashback reveals a younger Inagizaka, who was even more emotionally distant back then. He remembers how her smile never seemed to reach her eyes no matter what he said. With a cheerful grin, Surasawa tells a stunned Kishi that he reminds him of her. He explains that he thought he was the only one interested in her, but that wasn't the whole story. He recalls the rare, precious moments when she would flash a genuinely happy smile. A younger Surasawa admits that seeing her true joy made him happier than anything. Kishi listens intently, a slight blush creeping onto his cheek as he processes the confession. Surasawa clarifies that while it started as love at first sight, his feelings now run much deeper. He realized he loves every part of her, from her words to her actions, a truth Kishi's challenge helped him see. With a fond smile, he admits he started to find every little thing she did completely endearing. His gaze sharpens as he finally gets to the heart of his emotional breakthrough. With a heartfelt blush, he confesses that was the moment he finally understood what it meant to be in love. Kishi is left completely speechless, stunned by the raw honesty of Surasawa's feelings. Kishi quietly processes the heartfelt confession, simply saying, "I see." His words hang in the air, a silent acknowledgement of Surasawa's deep feelings. Kishi admits that while not everything about her is perfect, her amazing qualities are undeniable. Surasawa stretches happily as a classmate remarks on Inagizaka's incredibly competitive spirit. He recalls teaching a sheltered middle school Inagizaka how to use social media for the first time. But his innocent lesson accidentally created an online warrior who now battles trolls with fierce replies. Their conversation is cut short when Inagizaka suddenly trips, sending Surasawa into a panic. He frantically asks if she's hurt, but she just glares back, coolly stating, "That's my line." He ignores her sass, frantically patting her down to make sure she's really not injured. She zips up her jacket, calling him a troublesome person who won't listen to warnings about being reckless. He frantically asks if she's okay, but she just shakes her head, muttering a quiet no. Her face is hidden in shadow, her silence making him even more nervous. Without warning, she drives her head right into his stomach with a solid thud. He cries out her name in shock as she mutters about how he's truly a handful. With a deep blush, she admits she was just relieved he wasn't the one who got hurt. Surasawa immediately drops to the ground, bowing and screaming apologies for being a reckless idiot. Kishi watches their bizarre exchange, a look of dawning realization on his face. She turns her back on him with a huff, leaving Surasawa crushed by her cold shoulder. Mary gushes over their dynamic, while Kishi looks on in utter disbelief at the chaos. Mary points out that while Surasawa's feelings seem one-sided, Inagizaka's annoyed reactions are part of the fun. Kishi watches their chaotic dynamic, realizing it's the kind of thing that makes you want to root for them. With a knowing smile, he finally agrees, seeing the genuine connection beneath all the bickering. Later, Surasawa and Inagizaka enjoy a peaceful walk, completely unaware they're being watched. The culprits are revealed, a scheming Mary and a very reluctant-looking Kishi spying from the shadows. The next day, Kishi smoothly asks Surasawa about his plans for the upcoming Saturday. He's shocked when Surasawa has no date planned, questioning why he isn't taking his fiancée out. Surasawa stammers that it's too short notice, clearly not used to making spontaneous plans. But Kishi just smiles, offering him a pair of tickets and insisting it can't hurt to ask. He explains their movie tickets he got from a friend, pushing them on a flustered Surasawa. Kishi quietly admits it's his way of saying thank you, his voice barely a whisper. Kishi doesn't stop at movie tickets, offering a whole date package to a flustered Surasawa. Surasawa stares at the tickets, a plan slowly forming in his mind. But before he can ask her, Kishi leans in with a very personal question. He asks Surasawa just how far his relationship with Inagizaka has actually gone. Overhearing them, Inagazaka jabs Sorisawa with a pen, telling him not to answer. With a wicked grin, she declares her own fiancé is far too unrefined for such talk. She then warns Kishi not to fill Sorisawa's head with unnecessary ideas, much to Sorisawa's confusion. A sly smile reveals her true thoughts. She can't believe they've made zero progress. She teases them, asking if they haven't even held hands yet, something only kids would do. Later on their date, Sorisawa mentions Kishi's help, and Inagazaka notes how experienced he seems with women. But their date isn't as private as they think, as a shadowy figure lurks just around the corner. It's Kishi in a terrible disguise, admitting he got worried and just had to follow them. He can't believe how pure they are, lamenting that their relationship hasn't progressed one bit. But his solo mission is interrupted by Mary, who demands he help her ship them properly. Their cover is immediately blown as Sorisawa and Inagazaka spot them, demanding to know what's going on. Mary proudly declares this is more than just shipping, then asks how they knew about the date. She reveals she easily tricked Sorisawa into giving up the details, calling him a gullible fool. As Inagazaka spots them, Mary tells Kishi to scram so she can have her idol all to herself. But Inagazaka just gives a sly smile, putting a finger to her lips as if she has a secret. Kishi freezes in terror, realizing that if he gets in her way, he'll be completely erased. Kishi mocks Sorisawa's lack of progress, laughing that they haven't even held hands yet. The double date is officially crashed as the whole group decides to grab a bite to eat. While browsing the menu, Inagazaka's eyes land on a very specific item. She's discovered a limited edition dessert that's exclusively for couples. Without a second thought, she declares that's the one she wants, much to Sorisawa's shock. With a sly grin, she challenges him to figure out how they're supposed to prove their relationship status. He suggests just telling the truth, but she dismisses it, saying it'll sound like a desperate lie. Inagazaka then proposes her own classic foolproof plan to prove their coupledom. Her plan works perfectly as the waitress greets them as the couple, no questions asked. Sorisawa is relieved they pulled it off, but Inagazaka is so flustered her hair is practically standing on end. Kishi watches them from afar, realizing their childhood bond creates an effortless intimacy. But Sorisawa immediately panics, trying to deny it when the waitress calls them a couple. Inagazaka, however, smugly digs into the giant parfait her scheme successfully secured. He watches her eat, casually remarking on her apparent love for sweet things. His attention then shifts to her hands as he points out her surprisingly stylish nail art. She absolutely beams with joy, thrilled that he noticed such a small detail. Proudly showing them off, she reveals the beautiful manicure was a gift from Mary. She admits that after years of martial arts, she's not used to such things but is incredibly happy. But she quickly gets flustered, insisting she didn't get her nails done just for him. Their spies can't help but giggle, observing how well the two of them get along. She admits Mary is her first real friend, so she's still figuring out the right way to act. But she smiles, explaining that Mary's chaotic energy makes breaking down her walls incredibly fun. From their hiding spot, the spies strain to hear, completely missing the heartfelt confession. Mary suddenly perks up, gushing over how quickly Sorisawa and Kishi became friends. Inagazaka casually remarks that Kishi seems like a genuinely good-natured person, but then she adds with a smirk that he's also a nosy gossip, much to Kishi's horror. Sorisawa can't help but agree, a knowing smile on his face. He muses that their relationship seems so unbelievable that few people would ever take it seriously. He even admits that if he were an outsider, he'd probably think their engagement was a complete joke. But with a soft smile, he says he has absolutely no reason to doubt Kishi's sincerity. He realizes Kishi's meddling was just his own clumsy way of showing he cared. Mary chimes in from their hiding spot, declaring that kind of earnest concern is actually super cool. Kishi quietly admits he's just genuinely happy to see the two of them getting along. Sorisawa has to agree, admitting that Kishi was definitely a little too nosy for his own good. Inagazaka looks at the movie ticket, quietly agreeing with a knowing look in her eyes. Sorisawa asks what movie they're seeing, but she reveals Kishi insisted it's better as a surprise. A sly smile plays on her lips as she says, "Is that so?" With a cheerful smile, she clasps her hands together, declaring she's looking forward to it. Her sudden enthusiasm leaves Sorisawa completely baffled and her a flustered mess. The scene shifts to the movie theater, setting the stage for their big date. Sorisawa realizes with dawning horror that Kishi has sent them to see a scary movie. He mentally curses Kishi, wondering why his friend would set him up for this kind of torture. Meanwhile, Kishi and Mary wait outside, hoping the suspension bridge effect will work its magic. But on screen, a tender romantic scene unfolds, completely subverting their expectations. Inagizaka glances over at Sorisawa, her cool expression softening ever so slightly. She looks at her own hands, self-consciously thinking they're not cute due to her martial arts training. Sorisawa panics, realizing this is the perfect moment to hold her hand, but is terrified to make a move. Inagizaka's expression falls as if she's bracing herself for disappointment yet again. She turns to him, asking what he was looking at, completely ignoring the movie. But she admits to herself that she's the one who lacks the courage to initiate anything. She thinks back on how easily they touched when they were kids without a second thought. A memory flashes of a younger Sorisawa innocently pulling her along by the hand. But now she realizes closing that same distance feels like an impossible task. With a sudden surge of courage, she grabs his hand, shocking them both. The scary movie hits and Sorisawa immediately starts screaming, clinging to her for dear life. Inagizaka, however, just smirks, clearly enjoying his terrified reaction way too much. He continues to freak out, completely traumatized by the on-screen horror. After the movie, he admits he was too scared to watch, while she just gives him a smug look. She declares Kishi's plan a success, praising the movie's terrifying direction with a satisfied grin. He's relieved she enjoyed it, but she quietly admits she doesn't actually like horror movies at all. He confesses his hands were shaking because he was feeling a little unwell. She admits that's exactly why she was so worried about him the whole time. Her heartfelt concern leaves him completely stunned while she blushes, unable to meet his gaze. With a radiant smile, she declares that thanks to him, she's feeling much better now. But their sweet moment is interrupted by a familiar, chaotic shout from nearby. Mary excitedly points out another movie, while Kishi desperately tries to shut her up. Inagizaka coolly points out their spies, noting that Kishi and Mary are still lurking around. Sorisawa is shocked to learn their friends have been tailing them the entire time. She admits with a blush that she was so focused on him, she didn't notice a thing. With a sly grin, she grabs his hand and suggests they make a run for it. He's pulled along, his eyes locked on their intertwined hands. She glances back with a triumphant, blushing smirk, loving every second of his confusion. Sorisawa is left completely speechless, his heart pounding from her sudden boldness. They escape together, running through the streets with pure, unadulterated joy on their faces. Meanwhile, their abandoned spies bicker, with Mary whining about snacks and Kishi yelling at her to buy her own. Back at school, Inagizaka calmly tells Mary she's ready to go all out for their next surveillance mission. Kishi admits that seeing them on the date finally made him believe their engagement is the real deal. With a serene smile, Inagizaka simply confirms, "Of course we are." She then casually mentions how close they are, while Sorisawa is busy ordering udon, completely oblivious. Mary and Kishi erupt in shock, stunned that she would admit something so personal out loud. Mary completely loses it, screaming that Inagizaka actually used the fiancé word again. She asks if Inagizaka hates being called his betrothed, but a flustered Inagizaka quickly denies it. Kishi calmly explains that the title is just something their parents decided on. But Inagizaka quietly savors the word, a thoughtful smile playing on her lips. A flashback reveals she's always felt a wall between herself and the rest of the world. She admits she never realized how precious her family was, the only ones who could break through. Among them, her grandfather was her greatest comfort, a person she visited constantly. He gently teases a young Inagizaka after winning another game of Go. He wishes she'd show more frustration when she loses, but she simply asks him why. He bluntly tells her it's because she's not cute, calling her a terrible adult in the making. She recalls her flower-arranging teacher saying something similar, but with the opposite intention. She reasons that since she never won any prizes, she had no reason to smile in the first place. Her grandfather agrees that some teachers are too harsh, admitting he says the same things to her. He claims he's just being honest, a trait he's always had, but his actions betray his words as he affectionately ruffles her hair. He tells her she's cute no matter what, leaving a flustered Inagizaka telling him to stop. The memory shifts to her family's history, a kimono shop founded in the Meiji era. She explains that in the grand scheme of Kyoto, their family business is considered relatively new. The first generation of her family embraced new ideas, growing the business despite facing criticism. Her grandfather's voice cuts through the memory, asking what truly makes her happy. A young Inagizaka stares blankly at her grandfather, unable to answer his question. She pauses for a long moment, searching for an answer that simply isn't there. With a deadpan expression, she finally admits she has no idea what makes her happy. The young girl explains she only does things because she's told to, and the praise she gets means nothing. Happiness, sadness, what she likes. All of it feels distant and completely out of focus for her. She confesses that she's always felt this way, completely disconnected from her own emotions. Her grandfather's expression softens with a deep, understanding sadness. He gently agrees with her, acknowledging the emotional void she's lived with. He reassures her that she simply hasn't met the person who will change everything yet. The memory fades to a time when she was praised for being mature, a role she played but never felt. Her teacher suggests she enter her flower arrangement in an upcoming exhibition, much to her surprise. A spark of determination ignites in Inagazaka's eyes as she accepts the silent challenge. Back at school, she observes her classmates, feeling the immense pressure to be the absolute best. She turns away, her focus narrowing solely on her own path to perfection. Even her teacher is stunned by her talent, admitting Inagizaka's skills have already surpassed her own. But Inagizaka knows that no matter how hard she tries, a tiny flaw always seems to emerge. A sharp pain shoots through her finger, a physical reminder of her constant painful struggle. She quietly packs her tools, the rustling sound echoing her inner turmoil. Inagizaka realizes her kenzan is the problem, a tool meant for support that's now holding her back. Meanwhile, her classmates gossip, their jealousy clear as one bitterly suggests she should just quit. Her expression remains cold and distant, completely unfazed by their jealousy. She internally scoffs at their foolishness, brushing off their bitter remarks. But a sudden thought makes her pause, a new idea taking root in her mind. The memory shifts to her at home, finally asking her mother if she can quit flower arranging. Her mom asks if something bad happened, and Inagizaka quietly confirms her fears. But her mother simply suggests finding a new teacher, not understanding the real problem. As her life grew more complicated, so did the pressure to maintain her perfect image. Back in class, she's once again praised for her achievements, the center of everyone's attention. With a perfect smile, she accepts their praise, having finally mastered the art of hiding her true feelings. But one day, a new desire surfaces, a desperate wish to see the one person who might understand. Her grandfather reveals he's already met the boy, calling him a mischievous but good kid. A young Inagizaka can only think one thing: what a total pain. He explains that if they get along after all these years, that's all that matters. With a gentle smile, he declares that he thinks she and Sorisawa are a perfect match. It was her grandfather's first real request, so she agreed without a second thought. The word fiancé echoes in her mind, a title decided by their parents, not by her. She dismisses the thought, deciding it's a problem for the distant future. Besides, she reasons, it's easier than having to choose for herself. She had resigned herself to a simple fact: she would never fall in love with anyone. The memory concludes with their first meeting, a terrified Sorisawa and a perfectly composed Inagizaka. A young Sorisawa makes a bold declaration, vowing he'll make her happy no matter what. Inagizaka's reaction is a blank, unimpressed stare, leaving him completely flustered. She recalls that her first impression of him was, to put it mildly, the absolute worst. Their meetings were a yearly ritual, a brief encounter during one of the long school breaks. To her, their engagement was just another chore, as meaningless as a holiday gift. She found their time together incredibly boring, a sentiment she didn't bother to hide. Sorisawa, on the other hand, was a bundle of nerves, struggling to find the right words. He'd try to fill the silence with loud chatter, which she found completely annoying. While he talked about soccer, she coolly mentioned her endless lessons, creating an awkward divide. But his face lights up with genuine surprise when she reveals she's also started playing the piano. He frantically tries to make conversation, realizing they have absolutely nothing in common. But a thoughtful look crosses her face, a silent but hanging in the air. She decides that since it was her grandfather's wish, she has to at least try to make this work. The following year, he's back with another gift, nervously presenting her with a single tulip. His mom suddenly appears, and Inagizaka correctly guesses he brought the flower all the way from Tokyo. He admits he couldn't afford a real gift, so he grew the tulips himself for a school project. His mom teases him mercilessly, laughing that he has no idea what girls actually like. As he begs his mom to stop embarrassing him, Inagizaka quietly takes in the chaotic scene. She's completely stunned, realizing he went to all that trouble just for her. She accepts the flower, her cool expression softening ever so slightly at the heartfelt gesture. She recalls feeling absolutely nothing, despite his heartfelt gesture. But she forces a smile, telling him she's happy and thanking him for the gift. Sorisawa sees right through her act, wondering why her smile seems so empty. Later, she stares at the wilting flower, completely baffled by his troubled expression. The following year, Sorosawa doesn't visit at all, leaving a silent void. She apologizes to her grandfather, admitting she failed to make things work with him. Her grandfather just sighs, accepting that some things simply can't be forced. He asks if she just couldn't bring herself to like Sorosawa, but she denies it. With a heavy heart, she admits she couldn't grant his one wish and apologizes again. Her grandfather's face is filled with a quiet, heartbreaking disappointment. But her grandfather just pats her head, gently calling her a fool for worrying so much. She figures Sorosawa's family must have felt the same way, deciding to just give up on the whole thing. Inagazaka accepts that she's just not good at getting along with anyone, and that's that. She tries to convince herself it's for the best, that the engagement never really mattered. But as she sits alone, she realizes with a jolt that she feels absolutely nothing about it ending. It's a familiar emptiness, this complete inability to understand her own heart. A cold, chilling wave of despair suddenly washes over her. Another year passes and her room overflows with awards, but something is still missing. A familiar, devilish annoyance bubbles up, a feeling that something is constantly in her way. But a sudden, loud knocking at her window shatters the silence, making her jump in surprise. She slides open her window, annoyed to find someone on her roof again. It's a younger Sorosawa who has unexpectedly appeared outside her second-story room. He's back with a brilliant smile, here to see the Okaribi festival with her. He cheerfully greets her, but she's too stunned to do anything but say his name. She demands to know why he's on her roof in the middle of the night, completely baffled by his sudden return. He nervously tries to explain himself, but the words don't quite come out. But she cuts him off, pointing out that his pocket is completely soaked for some reason. He looks down in defeat, realizing he's made a clumsy mistake yet again. With a sigh, he pulls out a sad, crumpled flower he'd been keeping for her. He admits he brought another flower, but Inagizaka can only stare, noting this one is even more wilted than the last. An awkward silence hangs between them as she stares at the pathetic, wilted flower. Inagizaka suddenly feels a wave of dizziness, completely overwhelmed by the situation. She turns away without a word, telling him to wait as she disappears back into her room. She carefully places the flower in water, already planning for the next time he brings her one. Inagizaka then gives him a professional-level lesson on how to properly preserve a flower. Sorosawa is completely blown away by her unexpected expertise, his eyes sparkling with awe. He calls her a pro, a compliment that seems to catch her completely off guard. Her cool facade returns as she silently processes his words, her thoughts a complete mystery. Sorosawa then quietly admits he thought she had given up on him and wouldn't see him again. His wide, innocent eyes reveal just how much her absence had truly affected him. She bluntly asks why he'd ever think she'd given up on him, leaving him speechless. Inagizaka sighs, feeling utterly foolish for her own past assumptions. She casually invites him to see the festival bonfires, completely catching him off guard. He shyly admits he'd rather go with just her, but worries about getting caught sneaking out. She brushes off his concerns, telling him not to be reckless since it's already dark. With a cool expression, she informs him her curfew for lessons is a strict 9 p.m., but the bonfire starts at 8, giving them plenty of time, much to Sorosawa's delight. She takes his hand to lead him off the roof, teasing him about getting stuck. From her window, she watches as she leads him away, a small, private moment between them. He explains his parents' work schedule is the reason he had to sneak over so late to see her. She asks if climbing onto her roof was really his only option to see her. He sheepishly admits her brother would flip out if he used the front door at night. Inagazaka gives him a deadpan look, completely unimpressed by his flimsy excuse. Sorosawa marvels at how novel it feels to be out with her after dark. A soft blush dusts his cheeks, thrilled to be sharing this moment with her. He eagerly asks where the best viewing spot is, ready for her expert opinion. She suggests a safe, crowded spot by the river, but their plans are cut short by a sudden snap. Inagazaka freezes in place, a look of quiet shock on her face. Disaster strikes as the strap on her traditional sandal breaks, leaving her stranded. She's completely mortified, her expression a perfect mix of annoyance and embarrassment. She calmly suggests they turn back, but Sorosawa looks completely crestfallen. His expression shifts from shock to quiet determination, a plan already forming. A confident smile spreads across his face as he comes up with a brilliant idea. Without a word, he crouches down, offering his back like a true gentleman. With a cheerful grin, he tells her to hop on, ready to carry her himself. Inagazaka is completely speechless, stunned by his bold and unexpected offer. She worries about being too heavy, but he brushes off her concerns with a confident, "I'm fine." She reluctantly accepts the piggyback ride, maintaining her cool composure in the crowd. But his confident facade quickly crumbles as he starts sweating under the strain. He internally panics about his terrible acting, while she smugly notes how awful he is at lying. He notices the city lights dimming, and she coolly explains it's all part of the plan. She elaborates that the planned blackout is to enhance the festival's atmosphere, a tradition she knows well. Realizing the show is about to start, she directs him to the perfect viewing spot on the bridge. They find a place in the crowd, Surasawa looking up in awe while she remains perfectly composed. In the quiet moment, he asks why she was happy it was just the two of them. He confesses that he spent the entire past year reflecting on his own awkward behavior. A flashback reveals he finally understood how cold and distant he must have seemed to her. He admits that no matter how he tried to act, he always knew he was bad at connecting with people. But Inagizaka feels that familiar emptiness again, unable to connect with the moment at all. He nervously bumps his head against hers, stammering that he has something he wants to give her. He opens his hand, revealing a simple, handmade wooden ring. Inagizaka stares at the offering, her expression a perfect mask of confusion. Surrounded by the festival crowd, she politely asks what exactly he's just handed her. With a proud grin, he announces it's a ring he carved himself just for her. He blushes, admitting he saw a TV ad where a gift like this made a woman incredibly happy. Inagizaka realizes he meant to give it to her last year but couldn't finish it in time. It finally clicks that his absence wasn't a rejection, but a secret project for her. He quietly asks why she was so kind about the flower if it didn't make her happy. With newfound resolve, he declares that this time, he's determined to see her genuine smile. And just like that, she breaks into a radiant, heartfelt smile that leaves him utterly breathless. Inagizaka quietly admits he's finally seen through her perfect, emotionless mask. She realizes that despite all his efforts, she's given him absolutely nothing in return. As Surasawa apologizes, she confesses she doesn't even understand her own true feelings. He admits he can't tell what makes her happy or sad, as if her emotions are a complete mystery. She remembers her teacher calling her creepy for never showing any emotion, no matter the praise. Even her friends were confused by her stoic reactions, wondering if she secretly hated them. Inagizaka confesses she knows she's making him feel bad, but she just can't change who she is. She clutches his arm, declaring she's not worthy of his kindness and has given up on herself. He gently asks if she hates this feeling, this inability to connect with her own heart. With a pained look, she admits she just doesn't want to hurt him anymore. She looks away, quietly telling him not to worry about her feelings. But her expression shifts, a spark of determination replacing her despair. Surasawa just grins, vowing to do whatever it takes to make her happy. He shouts his promise for all to hear, a declaration that leaves her completely stunned. His heartfelt scream draws the shocked attention of the entire festival crowd, but Surasawa's focus is suddenly pulled away by the festival's main event. He points out the massive bonfire lighting up the mountain, calling it beautiful. Turning back to her, he calls her name, wanting to share the perfect moment. He's the one left breathless, completely captivated by the sight of her face. The bonfire's light seems to echo her silent, overwhelming gratitude. Back in the present, her grandfather correctly guesses she snuck out with Surasawa. She tries to deny it with a straight face, asking why she'd do something so reckless. But her grandfather reveals her overprotective brother was tracking her location the whole time. Inagizaka is touched by her brother's concern, realizing he was just worried about her. He gently pats her head, making her promise not to sneak out on her own again. His expression turns serious as he prepares to ask her something important. He suddenly teases her for becoming such a handful, and she just tells him to shut up. The memory returns to the festival, where Surasawa finally spots the ring on her hand. He leans in close, curiously asking why she's wearing it on her index finger. A flustered Inagizaka claims it's just more noticeable there, telling him not to ask weird questions. His mom schools him on ring etiquette, explaining it's a symbol of accepting a proposal. Inagizaka asks if their arrangement is different, leaving Surasawa stammering that it's basically the same. She clarifies that a fiancé is chosen, while their betrothal was decided by their parents. She says either title is fine, but quietly savors the word fiancé as she looks at her hand. His mom drops a bombshell, revealing it took Surasawa an entire year to carve that ring. A flashback shows him struggling, complaining that her small hands made the project incredibly difficult. His mom just laughs at the memory, calling his clumsy but heartfelt effort adorable. The image of his younger self's bright, determined smile flashes through her mind. Inagizaka touches the ring, musing on how he's always been so incredibly straightforward with his feelings. Surasawa points out the wooden ring is starting to get worn out, casually calling it rusty. His mom casually offers to make her a brand new silver ring to replace it. Sorisawa is completely floored by his mother's sudden grand promise. But the simple offer makes Inagazaka burst into tears, completely overwhelmed with emotion. Her sudden tears send Sorisawa and his mom into a full-blown panic. His mom notes how rare it is to see her cry, while Sorisawa demands to know why. Even her brother appears, vowing to fix whatever is wrong as she continues to sob. Sorisawa is left completely bewildered, unable to understand the source of her tears. Inagazaka herself doesn't know, crying out that she can't understand why she's weeping. A flashback reveals she once felt completely indifferent to everything in her life. She recalls a time when praise, achievements, and even her own desires meant nothing to her. She recalls how with every trophy she won, she hated herself more for feeling nothing. She hated herself for giving up easily, for every little thing that went wrong. Most of all, she despised the part of her that had no passion for anything at all. But then she remembers Sorisawa's bright, unwavering promise to make her happy. She realizes the reason she could never feel passionate about anything was just as her grandfather predicted. She hadn't met the right person yet. It all clicks into place. It was because she hadn't truly met him. Back in the present, she looks at him with a gentle smile and offers a heartfelt thank you. Sorisawa is completely stunned, a blush creeping onto his cheeks at her sincerity. He breaks into a joyful grin, understanding that like a wilted flower, their past can't be changed, but their future can bloom. Inagazaka decides to paint the memory, preserving the moment forever. She looks at the ring, finally realizing every gift from her fiancé is a precious treasure. But she reminds herself their betrothal was just an arrangement made by their parents. Back in class, Mary schools them on the true meaning of fiancé, a promise between two people. She gives a sly, knowing smile, clearly enjoying putting them on the spot. When their classmates ask what's up, the group just plays it off as a secret conversation. The mood shifts as Sorisawa is handed back a quiz, a look of pure terror on his face. The paper reveals the horrifying truth. He completely bombed the math test with a score of 24. He panics, realizing his part-time job has been killing his study time after school. Kishi watches his rival's academic meltdown with a look of mild concern. Kishi casually flashes his near-perfect score, rubbing salt in Sorisawa's academic wound. Sorisawa spirals into despair, dreading the upcoming finals and the threat of remedial classes. A brilliant idea suddenly strikes Kishi, catching his struggling friend completely off guard. Inagizaka appears out of nowhere, peering at his disastrous score with an unreadable expression. Her face breaks into a terrifyingly sweet smile, sending a chill down Sorisawa's spine. And just like that, Inagizaka has organized an emergency study session for the whole group. She admits with a smug grin that she's always wanted to host a classic high school study group. Sorisawa is grateful but can't help but question why his humble home was chosen as the venue. Everyone immediately chimes in with their own flimsy excuses, from messy rooms to famous relatives. He explains his house is empty until the evening, making it the perfect, distraction-free study spot. Sorisawa cheerfully announces he's going to grab some drinks, leaving the group alone in his room. The second he's gone, Mary's eyes light up with a devious, brilliant idea. Inagazaka watches in utter confusion as Mary immediately starts rummaging through Sorisawa's belongings. She leans over a startled Mary, demanding to know exactly what she thinks she's doing. Mary shamelessly declares she's conducting a thorough inspection for any inappropriate materials. Kishi tries to stay out of it, but can't help admitting he's just as curious to see what they find. Sorisawa returns, cheerfully teasing a deadpan Inagazaka about being interested in his secret stash. But Inagazaka's expression shifts as her sharp eyes suddenly spot something hidden on a bookshelf. She pulls out a mysterious unlabeled book, her curiosity piqued. As Kishi wonders if they've actually found something scandalous, a panicked Inagazaka freezes, unsure what to do next. Inagazaka's mind races with the worst-case scenario, finding evidence of another girl. Her dark thoughts spiral as she imagines what she would do with such a discovery. With a chillingly deadpan expression, she decides her only course of action would be to burn it. But the book opens to reveal an adorable childhood photo of her and Sorisawa. They realize it's a scrapbook filled with old newspaper clippings and memories. Kishi looks on, completely bewildered by Mary's sudden intense interest in the book. Sorisawa returns with drinks only to find his friends snooping through his personal history. He begs them to stop, but Mary insists he's being stingy with his embarrassing past. The scene shifts as the group finally settles down for their intense study session. While Surasawa and Inagizaka focus, Mary has already succumbed to a study-induced nap. With Mary asleep, the remaining trio actually gets some studying done, though Surasawa looks completely lost. After a while, they take a well-deserved break, with Surasawa and Inagizaka playing the perfect hosts. A newly awakened Mary stretches dramatically, ready to derail their productivity once again. She enthusiastically suggests they should all hang out like this during the upcoming summer break. Surasawa curiously asks Mary about her own schedule, wondering if she has clubs or a job. She reveals she's in 2 low-commitment clubs, leaving her plenty of time for fun and work. Kishi and Surasawa chime in, confirming their own schedules are wide open for summer plans. Surasawa proudly declares he has nothing but time since he's not in any clubs either. He then turns the question to Inagizaka, asking about her own summer commitments. Inagizaka hesitates for a moment, a thoughtful expression on her face as she considers her answer. She reveals she has to go to Tokyo for the summer, leaving her friends to wonder about her plans. Mary just smiles sweetly, telling the group to have fun without her. As someone excuses themselves to the restroom, the study session seems to be winding down, but Inagizaka suddenly stands up, her expression unreadable as she clutches a small object. A flustered Mary calls out her name, clearly caught off guard by her sudden movement. An older man with glasses suddenly appears in the doorway, stopping everyone in their tracks. His face lights up with pure joy as he realizes Inagizaka is visiting. He notes that if everyone else is out, he must be interrupting a private moment between the two of them. He quickly excuses himself, leaving a shocked Inagizaka yelling that he's got it all wrong. With a nervous blush, she tries to explain she's here with friends, but the damage is already done. Surasawa's dad is just happy she's made friends, a feeling her grandfather clearly shared. Mary asks Kishi how things are with Surasawa, observing that he seems to have settled down. Inagizaka smirks, revealing there's something she's been holding back for a while now. He tells Inagizaka not to worry about his son's words, brushing them off completely. She calmly declares that as long as they're happy together, nothing else matters. Inagizaka quietly agrees, confirming that she's perfectly fine with the situation. The man is suddenly energetic again, thrilled that she actually came all the way to their house. She remembers a similar situation from her own family's past, leaving Surasawa completely clueless. Kishi is immediately spotted peeking around the corner, interrupting the moment. Surasawa's dad welcomes the newcomer with open arms as Kishi gives a respectful bow. Kishi realizes it's getting late, deciding it's finally time for them to head out. Surasawa's dad enthusiastically invites Inagizaka to visit again anytime she's in the area. The group says their goodbyes, with Mary and Kishi waving as they part ways for the evening. As dusk settles over the neighborhood, the study session officially comes to a close. Walking home, Surasawa asks if she'll be gone all summer, but she hints her dad would miss her too much. A thoughtful silence hangs between them as Inagizaka considers their new friendship. She suddenly stops in her tracks, remembering something important she forgot to mention. Surasawa leans in close, revealing he's already created a group chat for the 4 of them. A faint blush and a tiny smile show just how much this small gesture means to her. He excitedly suggests they can all call and play games together over the summer break. Surasawa eagerly tells her they can all hang out online, even if she's away. Inagizaka is visibly moved, her cool exterior melting away at his thoughtfulness. With a radiant, blushing smile, she admits that sounds like a lot of fun. But then she gets a determined look, adding there's something else she'd like to do. With a sly grin, she confesses she wants to talk on the phone with just him. The scene shifts as a mysterious figure muses that Surasawa isn't such a bad kid after all. As they pass a station, the stranger notes an uncanny resemblance to someone they know. Elsewhere, Mary excitedly tells Kishi she's finally seen the guy who looks just like him. Kishi dismisses her, thinking that the other guy, Hakui, seems harmless enough. The memory flashes back to the scrapbook, revealing the person Hakui resembles is from Surasawa's childhood photos. The mysterious figure is revealed to be Inagizaka's older brother, spotted near a university. He's suddenly startled after bumping into someone in the bustling crowd. With a sly smile, he instantly recovers his cool composure. He calmly admits that the sudden encounter certainly took him by surprise. Looking back at the group, he jokes that their lively energy made him think a festival was starting. He smoothly apologizes for the collision, taking full blame for his own carelessness. With a casual wave, he bids the strangers farewell and continues on his way. He pulls out his phone, making a call to none other than Inagizaka herself. He confirms her summer break plans, casually offering to let their mother know she's coming home. Then, with a charming smile, he tells her she should bring Surasawa along to Kyoto with her. On the phone with her brother, Inagizaka admits she's actually looking forward to the trip. The scene flashes back an hour with a stunned Sorisawa asking, "She wants me to go to Kyoto?" Inagizaka had approached him with a sweet smile, asking if he'd like to walk home with her. Sorisawa's mind immediately flashes back to her family, dreading another round of their playful teasing. But his excitement wins out as he joyfully accepts her invitation to visit her hometown. She admits it feels a little strange for just the two of them, since her family usually visits him. With a mysterious smile, she reveals there's actually something specific she wants to do there. She tells him they'll talk later, but first, she needs his help preparing for their trip. The scene shifts to a bustling shopping district as she asks him to make a quick stop with her. Inside a clothing store, he asks what she's looking for, and she coolly replies, "Clothes, of course." Sorisawa chimes in that he needs new clothes too, since he's outgrown everything from last year. He recalls how she used to be taller, so he chugged milk every day just to catch up. Inagizaka pipes up, saying that's perfect because she's in the exact same boat. But the second the words leave her mouth, she realizes the implication of what she just said. A beet-red Inagizaka frantically denies that she's only grown in one specific area. She insists it's just normal, all overgrowth, leaving a baffled Sorisawa completely lost. Trying to move on, she declares they should also look for travel supplies for their trip. Sorisawa can only watch as she agonizes over the racks, overwhelmed by all the cute options. He suggests she just try some on, and a nearby clerk eagerly agrees. Inagizaka emerges from the fitting room in a stunning new outfit, looking pleased with her more mature style. Sorisawa completely loses his mind, screaming that she's just too cute. She emerges in another outfit, and he's still stuck on repeat, yelling, "Cute!" Inagizaka hesitates, holding up a much more daring dress. She tries it on, wondering if this new, bolder look is a bit too much. The sight of her leaves Sorisawa completely thunderstruck and blushing furiously. Inagizaka grows flustered, unsure how to react to his stunned silence. He panics, desperately trying to find the right words without sounding like a creep. Sorisawa awkwardly settles on calling her cool, which completely misses the mark. Her blank stare says it all. That was definitely the wrong thing to say. She tries on one last outfit, asking for his opinion while he's still a stammering mess. He finally blurts out that she's incredibly stylish, leaving her momentarily speechless. A devilish sales clerk appears, clearly enjoying Sorisawa's torture as she suggests yet another outfit. The clerk presents a cool, mature look, and Sorisawa can only manage a weak, "wonderful." She then shows off a more youthful style, and he stammers that it's refreshing. But Inagizaka suddenly appears in a stunning traditional dress, completely changing the vibe and shocking him. After her fashion show, she apologizes for the delay, leaving him to process the whirlwind of outfits. With a sly grin, she turns the tables, suggesting it's now his turn to try something on. He realizes she's right, admitting his usual hoodie will be way too hot for their summer trip. A determined glint appears in her eye as she adds another reason to her argument. It dawns on him that she's genuinely excited to see him in something new for a change. With a devilish grin, she declares she'll be his personal stylist for the day. He emerges in the first outfit, and she immediately gushes that it looks great on him. Sorisawa is completely baffled, wondering if her compliment is genuine or just pure sarcasm. His mind races as he desperately tries to figure out what she really means. He tries on a second look, and she's just as enthusiastic, declaring it's another perfect match. A third outfit with a floral pattern earns her praise for its beautiful design. She calls his fourth outfit sharp and sleek, her compliments showing no signs of stopping. Even a ridiculous perfect boy t-shirt gets her approval as she calls his look chic. As he models yet another wild outfit, she playfully accuses him of just having fun with it. Sorisawa is completely drained, admitting to himself he has no idea what she's actually thinking. He rubs his eyes, trying to decipher her expressions, but every compliment feels like a trick. He nervously chooses the perfect boy shirt, hoping chic wasn't just a polite insult. With a smug smile, she agrees it's a good choice, but hints that another one might suit him even better. Sorisawa is completely defeated, admitting this whole fashion game is way too difficult for him. A sudden, horrifying thought strikes him as he remembers to check the price tag. He flips it over to reveal a jaw-dropping price of 27,000 yen for a single shirt. His soul practically leaves his body as he stares into the void of his empty wallet.
He quietly and very carefully places the shirt back on the rack, trying to act casual.
In a desperate panic, he suggests they should definitely check out some other stores. They move on to browsing travel bags, a much safer and less expensive topic. Inagizaka is completely unimpressed by the luggage selection, while Sorisawa gawks at the prices. He's floored that a cute bouquet of artificial tulips costs only 500 yen, amazed by the quality. She holds the flowers, casually asking if he's still growing tulips for her this year. Sorisawa puffs up with pride, enthusiastically confirming his tulip project is still going strong. With a sly smirk, Inagizaka decides to test him, asking if he knows the meaning behind the flowers. He draws a complete blank, his clueless expression saying it all. A wave of panic hits him as he wonders if he's been accidentally sending her a terrible message. She explains that since he brings a different color each year, the meanings all vary, but a flashback reveals the meaning of the single tulip he first gave her. A confession that she is his destined one, leaving Sorisawa completely thunderstruck. Sorisawa panics, realizing he probably shouldn't look up the other meanings. Inagizaka teases that he'd be too embarrassed to ever face her again if he knew. He insists he definitely didn't mean anything bad, but she just smirks at his innocence. With a radiant blush, she tells him to forget the meaning and just keep giving her flowers every year. Sorisawa is left completely speechless by her heartfelt and unexpected request. He stammers, asking if she's really sure, but she calmly confirms her decision. He admits to himself that most of the time he has no idea what she's truly thinking. But a single word hangs in his mind, signaling a shift in his thoughts. He decides that even if there's a hidden meaning behind her smile, his heart can't help but race every single time he sees it. Sorisawa proudly shows off a much cheaper shirt, asking a deadpan Inagizaka which one she prefers. Elsewhere, a new student with blonde braids recognizes someone from the school entrance ceremony. She recalls the amazing girl from Kyoto, remembering her stunning beauty and powerful presence. The girl realizes Inagizaka's fiancé is also at their school, thinking the whole situation is straight out of a drama. A flicker of intrigue crosses her face as she passes the famous couple in the hallway. Later, the girl cheerfully calls out that she's leaving for the day. She pauses to say a quiet goodbye to a framed photo of her mother. The next morning, she's back to her energetic self, greeting the day with a massive yawn. The group walks to school, with Mary already dreading the upcoming finals and the horror of remedial classes. But Mary just grins at Inagizaka, smugly declaring that the special program student has nothing to worry about. Inagizaka coolly admits she's never struggled with a test, earning her the title of monster from a shocked Mary. With a sly smile, she claims it's not her fault everyone's expectations are just ridiculously high. She quietly considers the word monster, a label she seems to find more amusing than insulting. Kishi suddenly chimes in, comparing her intense focus to that of his own brother. Mary's attention immediately snaps to this new information, dying to know more about Inagizaka's family. Inagizaka smoothly changes the subject, asking her friends to share their summer availability. Mary enthusiastically declares she's free for all of August, ready for some serious hangouts. She also mentions her dad is visiting in July, adding another layer to their summer plans. Elsewhere, Sorisawa teases Kishi for being scared of his tutor, who apparently sends him dog videos. As the school day ends, the group agrees to finalize their plans tomorrow, leaving the details hanging in the air. As the school day winds down, Mary is already completely drained from the thought of more classes. Her mind is already elsewhere, planning where to take her dad when he visits in July. Meanwhile, some classmates approach her, trying to organize a post-exam party for the whole class. One brave soul nervously suggests they should invite the untouchable Inagizaka to the celebration. But Mary immediately shuts the idea down with a dramatic and panicked, "No way!" The boys are baffled by her reaction, admitting they just want to get to know the beautiful transfer student. Sorisawa looks on, a hint of disagreement on his face as he starts to object. Mary firmly explains she won't force Inagizaka into a situation she clearly wouldn't enjoy. Sorisawa and Kishi exchange a look, surprised that Mary is actually making a valid point for once. The conversation devolves into chaos as Mary loudly declares Kishi is also a terrible party guest. Mary dramatically calls Kishi a gloomy pretty boy, pointing out his attitude completely changes around Sorisawa. Kishi is baffled by the sudden attack, as Mary insists he has zero genuine interest in girls. The sheer injustice of it all sends Mary into a dramatic, sobbing heap on the floor. Later, she's completely defeated by her studies, complaining that everything but English is impossible. Inagizaka watches her friend's meltdown with a curious, analytical expression. She sits with Mary, commenting on how effortlessly and naturally she seems to fit in. In fact, Mary is so fluent and adapted, people often forget she's an exchange student. The compliment sends Mary into a fit of pure joy, absolutely thrilled by the praise. But she admits with a yawn that she wasn't always this comfortable when she first arrived. A flashback reveals her classmates used to gossip, calling her off because her foreign manners were different. Mary explains her Japanese is flawless because her mother is a native speaker. She reveals that growing up with Japanese media made her an outcast back in Canada. Inagazaka recalls that Mary is now living with her grandparents, who apparently make amazing food. Mary admits she's separated from her dad, but clings to his promise of a summer visit. Her classmates were surprisingly kind, offering to hang out anytime she felt lonely. The memory gives Inagazaka pause, a flicker of understanding in her expression. She quietly wonders if Mary ever actually feels that loneliness anymore. But Mary cheerfully declares she hasn't felt lonely for a single moment since arriving. Between her doting grandparents and amazing new friends, she's having the time of her life. Inagazaka listens with a knowing smile, genuinely happy for her friend's newfound home. Mary reveals her life in Japan was an endless journey, tracing the footsteps of her mother. But a somber flashback shows her at a gravesite, admitting she was actually trying to forget her. She recalls a particularly difficult time, her hands trembling as the painful memory surfaces. In a Maid Cafe flashback, a clumsy mistake leaves a customer's shirt covered in sauce. Panicking, she remembers she has to bow, struggling with the proper way to apologize. Thankfully, a senior coworker swoops in, bowing deeply and taking control of the situation. The coworker explains that Mary is an exchange student trying to smooth things over. Later, Mary thanks her senior profusely, bowing low in the staff room for saving her. Her senior just smiles, reassuring her that her reaction wasn't wrong at all. She explains that different cultures have different ways of apologizing, a lesson Mary takes to heart. Her senior tries to explain that cultural impressions are complicated, but Inagazaka finds the explanation itself even more difficult. Later, Mary trudges home alone, trying to convince herself that fitting in isn't so hard. But a devastating text message shatters her hope. Her dad has canceled his summer visit. She realizes the words that truly exclude her aren't "I don't like you," but something far more isolating. The crushing weight of her disappointment leaves her completely heartbroken. The next day, Inagazaka finds her on a park bench, surprised to see the usually energetic Mary so down. She offers Mary a rice ball, a simple gesture that earns her the title of goddess in Mary's eyes. Mary tearfully tries to explain her overwhelming feelings, but Inagazaka admits she doesn't understand at all. The scene shifts, connecting her friend's quiet confession from yesterday to a new idea. Putting it all together, Inagazaka leans in and invites a lonely Mary to join her trip to Kyoto for the summer. She casually mentions her family home has plenty of empty rooms and her parents have already given their blessing. With a sly grin, she suggests they invite Sorisawa and Kishi, turning it into a full-blown group vacation. Mary is left completely speechless, unsure if she should accept the incredible offer. Inagazaka offers a gentle, encouraging phrase in her native Kyoto dialect. Her smug little smile reveals she's clearly enjoying watching her friends squirm. Determined to fit in, Mary begins practicing polite phrases in the local dialect. Her practice session quickly turns into a flustered mess of mispronounced words. Blushing furiously, she asks if she'd be a nuisance, revealing she's been studying the dialect for a while. Inagazaka coolly dismisses her concerns, telling her not to worry about it. She then points out that Mary already uses the dialect so confidently, it's a complete non-issue. Mary breaks down, sobbing that as an exchange student, she feels like she'd just be a burden. But Inagazaka cuts through her tears, admitting she's always wanted to be her friend. She confesses that Mary was the very first person to ever say that to her. Inagazaka recalls how everyone else treated her like she was from another planet, completely untouchable.
She tells Mary to stop putting up walls just because she's from another country.
With a warm smile, she says Mary is a friend she wants to introduce to her family. Overwhelmed by the gesture, Mary tackles her in a hug, vowing she'll absolutely be there. Inagazaka then casually ropes Kishi into the trip, teasing that he's coming along too. The scene then shifts to a quiet, stylish cafe and bar named Carol. Inside, the Kishi lookalike Hakui works as a waiter, finding peace in the calm atmosphere away from the city's hustle. Hakui is blissfully unaware as a coworker playfully mocks him, calling this the perfect part-time job. With summer break over, he's been working hard to save up for some well-deserved fun. But now he's vowing to buckle down and focus on his studies for the new semester. His determination is cut short when he's called to a table, snapping him back to reality. He spots a familiar face calling out to his senior coworker with a hint of surprise. Hakui thanks her for covering his shift, but she just brushes it off with a cool, "Don't mention it." She then casually asks if he's finally done with his remedial classes. He admits with a pained expression that he was the only one who failed, despite their group study session. A sly smile crosses her face as she says that's good, leaving him completely flustered. His senior, Ukami Chisato, carries on with her work. an aura of cool confidence surrounding her. He recalls how she's been his mentor since day one, patiently teaching him the ropes. Hakui secretly admires her cool and collected demeanor, hoping to be just like her someday. He curiously asks why she's been taking on so many shifts lately. She casually blames it on having too many dates and not enough money. He's thrilled to hear she and her boyfriend are doing so well, but she just gives a vague reply. A soft, almost unreadable laugh escapes her lips, hiding her true feelings. But internally, she admits it's all a complete fabrication. Hakui's attention is suddenly drawn to a ring on her finger, asking if it's a gift. She quickly lies, claiming it's from her boyfriend and she just wanted to show off. But later, she confesses the truth to a shocked Hakui. She's actually engaged. Hakui asks why she called the cookies she gave him a bribe, leaving her completely stumped. She frantically tries to explain it away with legal jargon, telling him to just forget she said anything. A flashback shows Hakui charming another senior coworker, who notes he's a new hire from the spring. The coworker gushes over how cute and earnest he is, calling him a natural with older women. Ukami internally cringes, feeling pathetic for lying just to seem like a respectable senior. She admits she lacks the courage to tell him the truth, so she invented a fake boyfriend instead. A flashback reveals her miserable attempts at dating, going to so many mixers she actually went broke. Back in the present, she casually asks Hakui about his summer plans, catching him off guard. With a shy smile, he prepares to drop some major news about his upcoming vacation. He reveals he's visiting his fiancée's family, a bombshell that leaves Ukami completely stunned. He explains that while he's visited his fiancée's family before, it's been a few years since he's seen them. Hakui admits he's incredibly nervous, since going alone feels way more intense than visiting with his family. He innocently asks Ukami if she's ever met a significant other's parents, completely oblivious to her situation. The simple question sends her into a state of pure, unadulterated shock. She completely loses it, wailing that she has zero advice to give since she's never even had a boyfriend. Pulling herself together, she suggests he at least bring a gift, a classic move for making a good impression. She then enters expert mode, advising him to find a common topic to break the ice with the Kyoto locals. Ukami thoughtfully considers the perfect Kyoto-related conversation starter. Her brilliant idea is to bring up bubuzuke, a famously passive-aggressive local custom. Hakui notes that it's a well-known tradition, but she admits it's a notoriously complicated one. She explains that being offered rice is the Kyoto way of politely telling you to get lost. Hakui sighs, wondering how he can possibly win over his future in-laws. Ukami looks at him with pity, realizing he's completely out of his depth. She asks for a description of his fiancée, guessing her features with surprising accuracy. With a knowing smile, she tells him not to overthink it so much. Just then, Sorisawa's mom spots them from outside, shocked by the uncanny resemblance between Hakui and her son. Hakui continues to worry, thinking he's already offended his fiancée's blunt family. In a dramatic flashback, Inagazaka covers her ears as Ukami calls her a stalker for visiting the cafe. Ukami realizes that for Inagazaka to come all this way, she must be seriously invested. A sharp glint in her eye reveals she's finally putting the puzzle pieces together. But a sudden shock hits her as she realizes Inagazaka is nowhere to be seen. The cafe door chimes, revealing a ridiculously disguised figure that leaves Ukami utterly speechless. She internally panics, realizing the terrifyingly determined Inagazaka has infiltrated the cafe. Ukami can't believe the audacity of the disguise, while Hakui looks on in complete confusion. Inagazaka dramatically presents herself to a startled Hakui, who nearly drops what he's holding. He stammers out her name, completely baffled as to why his fiancée is standing before him. Overcome with nerves, Hakui completely fumbles his words while trying to take her order. His brain short-circuits as he starts shouting nonsense about ramen, sending the cafe into a frenzy. While Ukami deadpans at the absolute chaos, Inagazaka starts snapping photos of her flustered fiancé. Hakui's spirit is completely crushed, and he can only come to one conclusion: I'm trash. Ukami tells Hakui he's not trash, but he begs her to stop her terrifying pep talk. Inagazaka watches him, thinking he looks pathetic trying so hard to be cool. But Ukami insists, telling the defeated boy he's not uncool at all. Inagazaka's expression softens as she silently agrees, thinking he's not uncool in the slightest. Her quiet sincerity catches Hakui completely off guard. Ukami lectures him, saying that trying hard despite his insecurities is the opposite of uncool. A knowing smile crosses her face as she prepares to reveal the real reason. She realizes Inagizaka fell for him precisely because he tries so hard. The moment reminds her of her own past, when she changed her entire look for university. She recalls forcing herself to go to parties, trying desperately to fit in just like him. Ukami admits she's been lying to herself, but for now she's ready to be honest. She confesses that even though pushing herself hurts, she doesn't regret a single moment. With a confident smile, she believes all her struggles will shape the person she's meant to become. Hakui mistakes her heartfelt speech for a lecture, forcing her to awkwardly apologize. Their moment is cut short as another coworker peeks in, calling her back to the main floor. Snapping back to reality, she quickly agrees to return, leaving a startled Hakui behind. She then orders her coworker to let Hakui handle his fiancée's table, vowing to pay for any mistakes. Inspired by her faith in him, a blushing Hakui steals his resolve to face Inagizaka. He calls out to his senior, but she just walks away with a cool, confident stride. He thanks her with a radiant smile, and she admits his gratitude gave her courage too. Ukami is moved by his offer, but her determined eyes say she's got this handled. Meanwhile, Inagizaka stews at her table, radiating an aura of pure, unadulterated grumpiness. Her dark mood is so intense it leaves both Hakui and Ukami completely bewildered. A nervous Hakui can only stammer out his senior's name, unsure how to handle the situation. Ukami flinches, caught off guard by the sudden tension in the air. Outside the cafe, the world is calm, a stark contrast to the storm brewing within. Hakui panics, wondering why his fiancée is suddenly here after her earlier meltdown. He cautiously approaches her table, trying to take her order as she remains stubbornly silent. Inagizaka finally looks up, her sharp gaze cutting through the silence. But her glare melts into a sweet, teasing smile as she asks what they were doing in the back for so long. She playfully asks what kind of secret conversation he was having with his co-worker. Hakui is completely flustered by her question, while Ukami just looks bored. With a knowing smile, Inagizaka muses that their chat must have been very deep. She panics internally, worried he'll think she's too demanding, and quickly orders a coffee. As he leaves, her playful demeanor vanishes, replaced by a thoughtful, serious expression. Her mind fixates on the ring she saw, realizing she's never seen his senior wear one before. A wave of jealousy hits her, but she reminds herself she has no right to feel that way. Hakui returns with her drink, and she gives a polite but strained thank you. He suddenly leans in close, covering his mouth to whisper a secret. He reveals the master is giving her a little something extra on the house. He presents a plate of French toast, revealing he made it just for her since he heard she likes sweets. The special treatment sends a beet-red Inagizaka into a flustered panic. His senior co-worker is impressed, noting how he completely turned the tables on her bad mood. A newfound confidence washes over Sorisawa, feeling 20% smoother as he greets a new customer. He turns on the charm, smoothly guiding another girl to her seat. Sorisawa even pulls out her chair, playing the part of the perfect gentleman. His chivalry sends the other female customers into a collective swoon. Inagizaka watches in disbelief, suddenly realizing her fiancé is actually popular. A dark aura erupts around her as she realizes her Sorisawa is now 20% more charming to everyone. She hides her face, her thoughts returning to the ring and whether he'll really give her one. Inagizaka enjoys her French toast, but silently notes the cafe is far too crowded for her liking. She immediately regrets her timing, realizing she's picked the worst possible moment to visit. Resolving not to be a bother, she decides to keep a very low profile. Sorisawa approaches to offer a water refill, but she politely tells him she's fine. With a deceptively sweet smile, she asks if he's too busy, a question that sends him into a silent panic. He suddenly bolts from her table, stammering an apology and leaving her completely baffled. Ukami rushes after him, demanding to know what's wrong as Inagizaka watches in utter confusion. He frantically explains to his senior that her polite inquiry was actually a coded message to leave her alone. A flashback reveals her uncle once used similar words, asking if he was too busy with school to visit. The memory of her uncle's friendly but firm dismissal has clearly left a lasting and confusing impression. A quick search reveals his grandfather's passive-aggressive phrases were a cultural minefield. He learns that in Kyoto, "Are you busy?" can mean anything from a genuine question to "get lost." Sorisawa realizes with dawning horror that her polite question was actually a brutal rejection. Ukami sighs, finally understanding the source of their twisted communication, while he vows to keep his distance. He looks back at the two women, completely terrified of saying the wrong thing again. Caught between his senior's pity and his fiancée's silence, Sorosawa is trapped in social purgatory. Inagazaka's expression remains a complete mystery, leaving him to guess her true feelings. With an unenthusiastic thumbs up, Ukami sends him off to face the music alone. Sorosawa is left completely dumbfounded, his brain still buffering from the cultural whiplash. He finally calls out to a silent Inagazaka, who seems ready to walk out of the cafe and his life. He catches up to her outside, thanking her for waiting for him. Sorosawa is relieved she's still there, but she just asks what he's talking about with a deadpan look. As they walk home, she asks if he actually enjoys his job, and he enthusiastically agrees. He starts to list all the things he loves about working at the cafe. He gushes that the food is great and his coworkers are kind, but Inagazaka's expression darkens. She suddenly grabs his arm, stopping him in his tracks and leaving him completely bewildered. He stammers, asking what's wrong as she tightens her grip on his hand. Leaning in close, she quietly declares that he's hers, shocking him to his core. Sorosawa is left a blushing, stuttering mess, completely overwhelmed by her sudden possessiveness. Her jealousy finally boils over as she remembers him charming other girls and smiling with his senior coworker. The screech of tires and blinding headlights suddenly shatter their intense moment. Inagazaka yanks him out of the car's path, pulling him into a desperate embrace. Pinned against a wall, Sorosawa is trapped by her intense, worried gaze. She scolds him for being distracted, her sharp words barely hiding her fear for his safety. As the car disappears into the night, the two are left alone in the sudden silence. A flustered Sorosawa stammers his thanks, and she quietly accepts his gratitude. He admits he was so captivated by her that he didn't even see the danger coming. With a bashful smile, he confesses he couldn't stop looking at her, even during his shift. His honest confession catches her completely off guard, a tiny smile betraying her tough exterior. She declares she can't deal with him, then offers to hold his hand so he doesn't get into more trouble. The group finally meets at the station, ready to kick off their big trip to Kyoto. Kishi eyes Sorosawa's bags, wondering what he could have possibly bought for the trip. A flustered Sorosawa explains his senior coworker gave him some questionable souvenir advice. He proudly reveals a box of ramen and pickle-flavored chocolates, a culinary crime in the making. On the train, the group settles in as Mary expertly handles stowing the luggage. While Mary geeks out over the travel schedule, Inagazaka just smiles, enjoying the moment. A nervous Sorosawa can't help but hover over a seemingly calm Kishi. Kishi coolly calls him out, asking if he's feeling the pre-vacation jitters. Playing the perfect friend, Kishi offers him snacks and a drink to calm his nerves. The girls immediately pop up from their seats, demanding their share of the travel treats. Kishi questions if this trip is any different from their usual yearly visits. Sorosawa smirks, pointing out that this time, the invitation came directly from Inagazaka herself. While Kishi looks on with weary resignation, Sorosawa's mind is already on one particular person. He muses that he can't possibly show up to her family's home empty-handed. But as the train ride continues peacefully, a thought crosses his mind that this trip won't be so simple.